Chapter 252. The Howran Everlasting Formation was a combination of defense, spirit gathering, enemy trapping techniques, and illusions. It was a city-protecting formation that Xiantian City urgently needed. It also solved one of Xian Chen's worries. He was even more impressed with Yi Tianzong now. In the world battlefield, there were many precious resources scattered all over the place. The reason why every world's factions set up a stronghold in the world battlefield was not only to allow their prodigies and experts to fight for their own fortune, but also to find and plunder the precious resources in the world battlefield. All sorts of precious resources were buried in the world battlefield. Whoever could find them would be considered lucky. Whether or not they could protect them after finding them would depend on their own strength and planning. A month after arriving in Xiantian City, it was Yi Tianzong's turn to lead a team to search for resources. In the second layer of the world battlefield, the Black Heaven sect did not have a single resource mine. Instead, they shared a mythical feather fantasy crystal mine with the Sky Blade sect and the ancient Luo sect. The mythical feather fantasy crystal was the same as the 5-elemental gold essence. They were both raw materials used to refine emperor weapons. However, the mythical feather fantasy crystal was of a higher grade and more precious than the 5-elemental gold essence. The mythical feather fantasy crystal mine guarded by the Black Heaven sect, the Sky Blade sect, and the ancient Luo sect was a medium-sized mine. It had been discovered more than 100 years ago. However, due to the special rules of the world battlefield, it was very difficult for disciples at the third and fourth heaven of the mythical realm to mine it. It would take the Black Heaven sect, the Sky Blade sect, and the ancient Luo sect at least 300 years to finish mining this medium-sized mythical feather fantasy crystal mine. The mythical feather fantasy crystal was mined by the other Black Heaven sect disciples along with the Sky Blade sect and the ancient Luo sect. Nothing had happened for more than 100 years. Naturally, there was no need for Yi Tianzong to worry about it. After Yi Tianzong sorted everything out, he led the 500 Black Heaven sect disciples out of Xiantian City to search for treasures in the world battlefield. Searching for treasures in the world battlefield was a very dangerous thing to do. This was because countless Emperor-class and Supreme forces in the 10 boundless worlds would send out their own teams to search for treasures at all times. This way, there was a high chance that they would meet other teams that were also out to search for treasures. In the world battlefield, other than the sect's disciples, everyone else was an enemy. Once they encountered each other, it would be fine if they were evenly matched. It was very likely that they would brush past each other due to their own misgivings. However, if one side had a great advantage in strength, then the other side would be in danger. If they didn't deal with it properly, then they would be annihilated by a powerful team. God King Forces teams were afraid of encountering Emperor Forces teams, while Emperor Forces teams were afraid of encountering Sovereign Forces teams. For example, if the team led by Yi Tianzong from the Black Sky sect was unlucky enough to encounter a team from another Supreme Force, they wouldn't be able to kill the Supreme Forces team even if they could. Unless it was a matter of life and death, they could only wait for the Supreme Force's revenge. Although Taiyuan Heavenly Venerate was present in Taiyuan Domain, Heavenly Venerate experts from other regions could not attack Taiyuan Domain, which was under Taiyuan Heavenly Venerate's jurisdiction. However, Taiyuan Heavenly Venerate would not care if a Supreme Force sent a great Emperor expert to attack Black Sky sect. In any place, strength determined everything. The weak could only take a beating. Taking a beating without retaliating was not Yi Tianzong's character. Yi Tianzong had long considered the possibility of encountering a Supreme Forces team and had also come up with a plan to deal with it. The body displacement divine art was Yi Tianzong's method of dealing with it. The body displacement divine art was a divine art that Yi Tianzong had obtained from the inheritance of the Immortal Mansion. It was a minor divine art, but its effects were very powerful. After cultivating the body displacement divine art, one could completely change the cultivator's appearance and aura. Even the aura of the spirit could be changed. One could completely become a different person or race. Unless one encountered a living being with an innate delirium divine art, no one would be able to distinguish the true faces of Yi Tianzong and the others. When Yi Tianzong was in Xiantian City, he had imparted the body displacement divine art to the 500 Black Sky sect disciples that he was in charge of. However, what Yi Tianzong imparted was a very incomplete version of the body displacement divine art. It could only change one's appearance and divine body aura for a certain period of time. It could not change one's spirit aura. In order to achieve the effect of changing one's spirit aura, one had to consume the illusionary god pill. However, it was very difficult to refine the illusionary god pill. Yi Tianzong had only accumulated a total of 5,000 illusionary god pills in his previous life. The effects of one illusionary god pill could last for 3 years. That was enough. Yi Tianzong would not be so kind as to completely impart his divine art to others. After leaving Xiantian City, Yi Tianzong led the 500 Black Sky sect disciples to a hidden place and then set up an invisibility formation. Within the invisibility formation, Yi Tianzong and the 500 Black Sky sect disciples put all the items that could be related to the Black Sky sect into their respective storage rings. Then, they changed into the clothes of other sects, changed their appearances, and changed their aura. After checking that everything was fine, they removed the invisibility formation and began their exploration journey under Yi Tianzong's lead. Yi Tianzong led the 500 Black Sky sect disciples to wander around the second level of the world battlefield. Along the way, Yi Tianzong activated his golden eyes of illusion breaker from time to check if there were any precious resources or mineral veins within a 10-mile radius. 1 day passed, 2 days passed. Gradually, half a month passed. Yi Tianzong and the others did not find anything. However, they were not discouraged. It did not matter if they did not find anything. It would be best if they did not meet anyone else. Another 3 days passed. On this day, Yi Tianzong was leading the Black Sky sect disciples to hide their aura and search around. While flying, they suddenly heard the sound of fighting. Yi Tianzong and the others immediately stopped and retreated hundreds of miles. Yi Tianzong took out a sky-covering formation disc that could hide his aura and figure. He activated the sky-covering formation disc to hide himself and the Black Sky sect disciples. Then, after Yi Tianzong gave some instructions, he stepped out of the range of the sky-covering disc formation. He used the traceless of the void to eliminate his aura and figure. Then, he merged into the void and quietly headed in the direction of the battle. When he arrived at the area near the battle, Yi Tianzong looked at the situation in the field. After a while, Yi Tianzong figured out what was going on. It turned out that the battle in the field was between the teams of 3 supreme forces. These 3 supreme forces were from the Phoenix Clan's Super Universal World, the Devil Clan's Super Universal World, and the Ancient Clan's Super Universal World. Each of the 3 supreme forces from the 3 Super Universal Worlds had about 500 people in each team. Most of them were equivalent to the peak or later stage of the 4th sky of Myth Realm. Only a few of them were at the 3rd sky of Myth Realm, less than 1/5 of them. They were much stronger than the 500 Black Sky sect disciples led by Yi Tianzong. The 3 supreme forces of the Phoenix Clan, the Devil Clan, and the Ancient Clan found a large primordial crystal vein one after another. Because they all wanted to monopolize the primordial crystal vein, they started fighting. After Yi Tianzong and the others noticed the fluctuations of the battle, the teams of the Phoenix Clan, the Devil Clan, and the Ancient Clan had been fighting for more than 4 hours. The 3 forces were on par with each other. Dozens of members had died, but there was still no winner. After hearing that the reason for the battle was a large primordial crystal vein, Yi Tianzong's heart could not help but jump twice. In the 10 super universal worlds, one of the more widespread currencies was the spirit vein. There were 4 types of spirit veins: small, medium, large, and super spirit veins. Above the super-spirit veins, there were ancestral veins of heaven and earth and innate ancestral veins. However, there were no spirit veins in the world battlefield, but there were primordial crystal veins. Primordial crystal veins were composed of primordial crystals, and primordial crystals were condensed by the vast and pure primordial chi of heaven and earth under the rules of the world battlefield. Each primordial crystal contained extremely pure and vast energy that could be directly absorbed by a myth realm expert. A small primordial crystal vein was equivalent to the value of a super-spirit vein, and the energy was purer than that of a super-spirit vein. A large primordial crystal vein was at least equivalent to the value of an ancestral vein of heaven and earth. Even the weakest Supreme Being sect would only possess one ancestral vein of the heavens and earth. It was easy to imagine how much wealth a large yuan crystal mine was. No Supreme Being force could ignore such a huge amount of wealth. Although Yi Tianzong was very envious of this large primordial crystal vein, he did not act rashly. Instead, he continued to maintain his state of merging with the void and watch the phoenixes, devils, and ancients fight below. Yi Tianzong did not plan to tell the other disciples of the Mystic Sky sect about this large primordial crystal vein. It was not only for safety reasons, but also to prevent accidents from happening because the disciples of the Mystic Sky sect could not withstand such a huge temptation. Yi Tianzong would never underestimate the desires of cultivators, especially greed. Even his powerful spiritual cultivation in the Sea of Heart realm could not help but beat a few times when he heard about the primordial crystal vein, let alone the other disciples of the Mystic Sky sect. The 500 disciples of the Mystic Sky sect had complicated hearts. Who knew who would have other thoughts in their hearts? Once this news spread out, not to mention the others, even Yi Tianzong would definitely be in big trouble. 4 hours later, the phoenixes, devils, and ancients could not do anything to each other, so they stopped fighting and confronted each other. Yi Tianzong knew that they must have sent the news to the strongholds of their respective forces. After finding no other gains, Yi Tianzong remembered this location and left quietly. After returning to the place where the all-encompassing formation disk was set up, Yi Tianzong said to the disciples of the Mystic Sky sect, "Let's leave this place quickly." When I got closer, I found that the teams of the phoenixes, devils, and ancients were fighting from afar. They all belong to supreme forces. Although I don't know the reason, their lineup and strength far surpass ours. When I came back, they only stopped but did not have the intention to leave. They must have found some important resources or treasures and must have informed their respective bases in the world battlefield. Soon, more powerhouses will come here. In order to ensure our safety, we must leave this place. This is not something we can get involved in. Seeing that some disciples of the Mystic Sky sect wanted to say something but stopped, Yi Tianzong continued, "I've made it clear to you. Since I brought you out, I will try my best to bring you back to Xiantian City safely. The premise is that you have to listen to my instructions. If any of you want to take the risk to get involved in this matter, then you can. I have the light mirror here. When I came in just now, my words and actions were recorded by the light mirror. If any of you want to take the risk, say that you don't agree with my decision. If you want to take the risk to get involved in this matter, you will bear all the consequences. Not only this matter, but in the future, as long as I make a decision with you, I will use the light mirror to record it. This way, right and wrong will be clear at a glance. It will be good for both of you. After returning to Xiantian City in the future, I can also explain to Elder Xian Chen and the sect. Now, if any of you want to take the risk, say it now." After Yi Tianzong showed the light mirror to the disciples of the Mystic Sky sect, no one was eager to take the risk for the time being. Chapter 253. Under the lead of Yi Tianzong, the 500 disciples of the Black Sky sect left the place and continued to search for buried resources and treasures in the world battlefield. As for the large yuan crystal lode discovered by the Devil race, the Phoenix race, and the Ancient race, Yi Tianzong was not in a hurry. Although only the Devil race, the Phoenix race, and the Ancient race had discovered the large Yuan crystal lode, who knew how many supreme forces would fight for it in the end. It would take 10 days to half a month for the results to be decided. Moreover, for beings at the third and fourth heavens of the mythical realm, it was not easy to mine a large Yuan crystal lode. Even if they were to mine for a year, they would only be able to mine a little. Anyway, neither he nor the Black Sky sect had any opportunity or qualification to get a share of the loot in the process of fighting for the large Yuan crystal lode. So, let the other forces fight to the death. When the time came, he would rely on his own strength to find an opportunity to plot against a few teams that escorted the Yuan crystal lode. Even if he could get a little bit of it, it would be a profit. If he was anxious now, he would just be looking for trouble. It was not his own thing to take a little bit of advantage. He should not ask for too much and continue to search for treasures with peace of mind. In the next month, Yi Tianzong led the 500 disciples of the Black Sky sect and cautiously wandered the world battlefield, searching for any places that might be buried. During this period, Yi Tianzong and the others encountered 3 teams from other forces. The 3 teams were all Emperor-level forces. The most powerful one came from the Divine Race Great Thousand World, and the other 2 came from the Human Race Great Thousand World. Compared to the 3 Emperor-level forces, the disciples of the Black Sky sect led by Yi Tianzong undoubtedly looked much weaker. In terms of the number of fourth heavens of the mythical realm, the Black Sky sect's team had more than 50 fewer people than the other 3 Emperor-level forces. Therefore, a battle inevitably broke out. In order to minimize the casualties of the Black Sky sect's disciples to the greatest extent, Yi Tianzong could only use his full strength when fighting with the 3 Emperor-level forces. After every battle, he directly destroyed all the enemy's corpses and left the battlefield as soon as possible. At the same time, in order to prevent the battle from attracting teams from other forces, Yi Tianzong would set up an encirclement formation and at least 3 layers of concealment formations around the battlefield every time he fought. This was to prevent the enemy from escaping and to conceal the fluctuations caused by the battle. These layers of entrapment and concealment formations that were set up in an extremely short period of time were all formation discs that Yi Tianzong had prepared in advance during his 10 years in the Mystic Heaven sect. All he had to do was to inject his divine essence and activate them. With the trapping and concealing array, Yi Tianzong was invincible when he unleashed his full strength. No one from the other 3 Emperor-ranked forces could stop Yi Tianzong's violent attack. Even the leader of the most powerful Protoss team was a challenger-level existence in the 5th heaven of Yi Tianzong. In the face of Yi Tianzong's fierce offensive, he was killed by Yi Tianzong's sword in less than 70 moves. That's right, the leader of the Protoss team was a 5th heaven Protoss powerhouse who possessed an exemption talisman. After killing the Protoss powerhouse who possessed the exemption talisman, Yi Tianzong's biggest gain was the exemption talisman, in addition to the collection of the dead Protoss powerhouse. The 5th heaven Protoss powerhouse's divine soul was attacked by Yi Tianzong in succession. Before he could destroy the exemption talisman, he was killed by Yi Tianzong. Anyone could refine and use the exemption talisman. When they didn't want to use it, they could also remove the owner status and give it to someone else to refine. The person who refined the exemption talisman could destroy the exemption talisman. However, once the person who refined the exemption talisman died by accident, the exemption talisman would become ownerless and would belong to whoever snatched it. They encountered 3 powerful Emperor-level forces in succession. Despite Yi Tianzong's efforts to eliminate the enemies, more than 200 disciples of the Black Sky sect had fallen in the end. Many of them were also injured. Yi Tianzong and the others directly sealed the bodies of the fallen Black Sky sect disciples with the ice sealing technique and put them in the storage ring. They would wait until they returned to the Black Sky City. The treasure hunt would last for 2 years. It had only been 3 months since the beginning, and they had already encountered 3 powerful Emperor-level forces. They didn't know how many fierce battles they would have to go through in the remaining time. It was no wonder that the sect disciples in the Black Sky City were afraid when they heard about the treasure hunt mission. The casualty rate was too high and too dangerous. Fortunately, it was Yi Tianzong who led the team. If it had been someone else, the Black Sky Sect's team would have been wiped out. Yi Tianzong continued to lead the remaining 270 disciples of the Black Sky Sect with a serious expression. They carefully wandered around the world battlefield. They were constantly vigilant of everything within a 10-mile radius. This was already the maximum range of vigilance that they could achieve. In the world battlefield, the suppression of space was very great. Although it didn't affect the flight of mythical experts, their flying speed was less than 1/20th of the speed in their respective Great Thousand World. Similarly, the detection range of the soul was also greatly suppressed. If a second heaven mythical realm expert was in the Great Thousand World, his soul could detect a radius of 20,000 miles. However, in the world battlefield, he could only detect a radius of 2 miles at most. Yi Tianzong could detect the situation within a 10-mile radius because he had the illusion breaker golden eyes. With the soul power that he could mobilize now, he could only detect the space within a 5-mile radius at most. Therefore, Yi Tianzong and the others couldn't be careless. If they accidentally fell into the trap of others, it would be dangerous. Perhaps it was a change of luck. On this day, Yi Tianzong and the others came to a valley. After carefully checking the situation within a 10-mile radius with the illusion breaker golden eyes, they confirmed that it was safe. Then, they began to search for hidden resource veins within a 10-mile radius. Needless to say, Yi Tianzong was pleasantly surprised. He actually saw a yuan crystal vein. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Yi Tianzong's illusion breaker golden eyes suddenly shone with golden light. At the same time, the divine vitality in his body was rapidly consumed. This lasted for half an hour before Yi Tianzong withdrew his illusion breaker golden eyes, feeling somewhat tired. Through the observation just now, this was a small yuan crystal vein that stretched for nearly 10 miles underground and was 1 mile deep. It was relatively large among small yuan crystal veins. I'm rich. This was the only thought in Yi Tianzong's mind. Originally, he wanted to wait a few years before going to the large yuan crystal vein that the devil race, the phoenix race, and the ancient race discovered before to steal some. He didn't expect to encounter a yuan crystal vein today. With this discovery, they could complete the treasure hunting mission ahead of time. They didn't have to wait until the 2-year deadline. Yi Tianzong and the others found a hidden place in the valley. After setting up the disorienting illusion formation, Yi Tianzong reminded the remaining Black Sky Sect disciples that he was going to take a look around. He asked them to wait for him to come back and not act rashly. Although the remaining 270 Black Sky Sect disciples weren't completely convinced by Yi Tianzong, after all, a person's heart was too unpredictable. However, for the sake of their own lives, they couldn't wait to hide and not go out. After Yi Tianzong left the disorienting illusion formation, he used Traceless Void and instantly lost all signs of his presence and figure. Then, he headed toward a small cave in the depths of the valley. Previously, when Yi Tianzong checked with his golden eyes of illusion breaker, he found a hidden small cave in the valley that was connected to an underground yuan crystal vein. After Yi Tianzong entered the small cave, he turned around several times and finally saw the yuan crystal vein that was buried more than a mile underground. The fist-sized yuan crystals in the shape of hexagons flickered with breathtaking light, deeply attracting Yi Tianzong's mind. Yi Tianzong set up a shielding formation and a warning formation behind him. Then, he dug toward the yuan crystal vein without hesitation. No weapons or other tools with killing aura could be used to dig yuan crystals. One could only dig with their bare hands or wear Xian crystal gloves made of Xian feather fantasy crystal. Yuan crystals were very hard. It was easy to get injured when digging with bare hands. Moreover, because the yuan crystals contained extremely pure and vast energy, people digging with bare hands would involuntarily want to absorb the yuan crystals. In this way, it was easy to cause an energy riot and be blown up by the unimaginable majestic energy in the yuan crystal vein. After wearing the Xian crystal gloves, not only could it prevent injuries, but the efficiency of digging would also be 6 or 7 times faster than with bare hand. It could also isolate the energy fluctuations of the yuan crystals and prevent the excavator from involuntarily absorbing the yuan crystals. Yi Tianzong originally did not have Xian crystal gloves, but coincidentally, there was a pair of Xian crystal gloves in the collection of the Fifth Heaven God clan expert he killed. Yi Tianzong put on the Xian crystal gloves and dug the yuan crystals happily. After an hour, Yi Tianzong had dug out a total of more than 300 yuan crystals. There was no other way. The yuan crystals in the yuan crystal vein were very hard when gathered together. It was very tiring to collect the yuan crystals. Even with the Xian crystal gloves, Yi Tianzong's efficiency greatly increased. He could only mine so much in an hour. Yuan crystals could not only be used for cultivation, but also for many other purposes. For example, they could be used to set up a spirit-gathering formation. Using yuan crystals to set up a spirit-gathering formation would slowly form a spirit vein after a long time. Using yuan crystals could also increase the success rate of refining pills and so on. In addition, in the 10 Great Thousand Worlds, origin crystals were a more popular currency than spirit veins. As a relatively weak existence among the Emperor-level forces, the mysterious Sky sect only occupied 2 super spirit veins in total. The relatively large yuan crystal vein that Yi Tianzong found was definitely more valuable than the 2 super spirit veins. It would definitely make the higher-ups of the mysterious Sky sect so excited that they could not restrain themselves. Yi Tianzong had been digging for 4 hours before stopping. He had harvested more than 1,500 yuan crystals in total. Then, Yi Tianzong calmed his excitement and resisted the urge to continue digging. After setting up a defensive formation and a shielding formation, he hid the exposed yuan crystal vein. Then, he turned around and left with the traceless void. Then, he returned to the place where the mysterious Sky sect disciples were hiding through a small hidden cave. After returning, Yi Tianzong calmed down and thought about whether he should tell the mysterious Sky sect about this small yuan crystal vein. After thinking for a long time, Yi Tianzong finally decided to tell the higher-ups of the mysterious Sky sect about the discovery of the small yuan crystal vein. The main reason was that although this was a small yuan crystal vein, it would take a long time for him to mine it all by himself. He could forget about it for less than 100 years. Not to mention that he did not have that much free time at all, it was not worth it to waste such a long time. There was also a great risk of being discovered midway. If he had the time, he might as well continue to search for treasures in the world battlefield. Who knew, he might be able to discover even better resource veins and treasures. Furthermore, after reporting the discovery of the yuan crystal vein to the sect, Yi Tianzong would be able to obtain at least 1/10,000th of the yuan crystal vein. This was also the reward that all the forces in the 10 boundless worlds would give to the teams that discovered the resources. Searching for treasures and resources in the world battlefield was putting one's life on the line. If there were no rewards after discovering it, who would put in the effort to search for it? Such a small yuan crystal vein contained at least hundreds of millions of yuan crystals. If it was 1/10,000th, Yi Tianzong would be able to get at least hundreds of thousands of yuan crystals. It was also a huge amount of wealth. It was hard to say if a divine king could even possess hundreds of thousands of yuan crystals. If he could find time to rob that large yuan crystal vein from before, Yi Tianzong could not help but feel a burning excitement in his heart at the thought of it. After considering all aspects, Yi Tianzong finally decided to tell the mysterious Sky sect about the discovery of the small yuan crystal vein. However, before he told them, he would let himself dig for a few more days. As for the other disciples of the mysterious Sky sect, he would not tell them about this to avoid unnecessary trouble. In any case, the remaining disciples of the mysterious Sky sect had long wanted to hide in a secluded place until the 2 years were up. Chapter 254. Yi Tianzong and the others stayed for a total of 5 days. During these 5 days, Yi Tianzong left early and returned late. He told the Xiantian sect disciples that he was going out to check the situation and find out if there were any resource veins or treasures. In fact, he was digging for crystals. In 5 days, Yi Tianzong had dug out more than 50,000 crystals. After feeling that it was about time, Yi Tianzong stopped digging and completely sealed the hidden small cave in the valley. After that, he didn't say anything and returned to the Xiantian city with the remaining Xiantian sect disciples. It was not safe to send someone to deliver this news. It was better to tell Elder Xianchen directly. The place where the small crystal vein was found was more than 100,000 miles away from the Xiantian city. On the way back, Yi Tianzong and the others were still cautious and vigilant of their surroundings. It took them half a month to return to the Xiantian city. After returning to the Xiantian city, Elder Xianchen was still wondering why Yi Tianzong and the others had returned in just a few months. Yi Tianzong directly told Elder Xianchen that he had something important to tell him alone. Elder Xianchen saw Yi Tianzong's serious expression and realized that things were not simple. After coming to his room, Elder Xianchen activated the shielding formation and said to Yi Tianzong, "Okay, what do you want to say?" After Yi Tianzong confirmed it, he said, "Elder Xian, the reason why we returned early this time was not only because we encountered a strong enemy and suffered a great loss, but also because I found a relatively large unowned small crystal vein. The location is very hidden and no other forces have discovered it for the time being. In order to avoid leaking the news, I didn't even tell the Xiantian sect disciples that were with me, so I returned directly." After Elder Xianchen heard Yi Tianzong's words, his heart suddenly pounded. He couldn't help but say excitedly, "What did you say? You found an ownerless small crystal mine, is what you said true?" Yi Tianzong directly took out a yuanjing from his storage ring and said to Elder Xianchen, "Yes, I'm sure it's a small yuanjing mineral vein. This yuanjing mineral vein is hidden under a valley. The disciples of the Xiantian sect and I went through a great battle and lost many disciples, so we found a valley to hide and recuperate. During the few days of recuperation, I went out to check the surrounding situation. After carefully exploring the valley, I found a hidden crystal lode through a small cave. According to the intensity of the energy, I calculated that this was at least a small crystal lode. After I dug up some, in order to prevent the news from being leaked, I brought the sect disciples back." "Good, good, good. You did the right thing. For safety's sake, you really shouldn't tell anyone. If it's really as you say, then you've made a great contribution this time. It's just a few crystals, so what if you've dug them up? Compared to the entire crystal mine, they're insignificant. Tell me, where is this yuanjing mineral vein?" When Elder Xianchen saw the yuanjing in Yi Tianzong's hand and heard the news confirmed by Yi Tianzong, he was very excited. He looked at Yi Tianzong happily and directly ignored the fact that Yi Tianzong had dug up the yuanjing. When Yi Tianzong told him the location of the yuanjing mineral vein and said that he had set up a formation to hide the energy fluctuations of the yuanjing mineral vein and perfectly sealed the entrance of the cave, Elder Xianchen patted Yi Tianzong's shoulder and praised Yi Tianzong for being meticulous and thoughtful. Then, he asked Yi Tianzong to wait for the notice while he used a secret method to send a message to the people of the Black Sky sect stationed in the War God Temple. The news that Elder Xianchen sent back to the Black Sky sect shocked the upper echelons of the Black Sky sect. After some discussion, they asked for instructions from the 3 great emperors and finally decided to send the law enforcement elder, who was in the Divine King realm, to lead 1,000 Black Sky sect disciples in the 3rd and 4th heaven of the Myth realm to the world battlefield to preside over the mining of the yuanjing mineral vein. However, the Black Sky sect only had 2 exemption talismans. One was in the hands of Xianchen, and the other was in the hands of Zhao Lin, who was guarding the first layer of the world battlefield. If the law enforcement elder, who was in the Divine King realm, wanted to enter the second layer of the world battlefield, then he would have to let Xianchen leave the world battlefield. A month later, the law enforcement elder of the Black Sky sect brought 1,000 Myth Realm 3rd and 4th Heaven disciples to the War God Temple of the world battlefield in a low-key manner. They didn't enter the second layer of the world battlefield immediately because Xianchen hadn't been stationed in the world battlefield for 100 years. Even though he had the exemption talisman, he couldn't walk out of the world battlefield. The only way to enter the second layer of the world battlefield as soon as possible was for Xianchen to enter the third layer of the world battlefield and then hand the exemption talisman to the Black Sky sect disciples who were about to complete 100 years so that they could bring the exemption talisman to the law enforcement elder. Before Xianchen left, he found Yi Tianzong and explained the sect's arrangements to him. He told Yi Tianzong that after he left and before the law enforcement elder arrived, Yi Tianzong still needed to preside over the matters of the Black Sky sect. In that case, the sect lacks the exemption talisman and the law enforcement elder can't enter our layer of the world battlefield, Yi Tianzong said as he looked at Elder Xianchen. You're right. That's why I have to leave and enter a higher layer of the world battlefield and hand the exemption talisman to the law enforcement elder. Don't worry, the law enforcement elder is upright and plain-spoken. He abhors evil. You've made a lot of contributions to the sect and discovered the Yuan crystal mine. The law enforcement elder will definitely look at you differently and won't make things difficult for you. Elder Xianchen seemed to have seen through Yi Tianzong's worries and comforted Yi Tianzong. No, what I mean is that the sect doesn't have the exemption talisman, but I do. You don't have to go through so much trouble. Can't you just find a disciple in Xiantian City who has been here for 100 years and bring it to the law enforcement elder? As he spoke, Yi Tianzong directly took out the exemption talisman that he had obtained when he killed the God Clan powerhouse from his storage ring. Elder Xianchen was speechless. Yi Tianzong said, "Don't you know that I have the exemption talisman? This is the trophy I got when I killed a God Clan powerhouse at the 5th heaven of the Myth Realm. Didn't I tell you?" Yi Tianzong thought for a moment and said, "Oh, I remember. After I told you about the Yuan crystal mine that day, I planned to tell you, but you couldn't wait to leave, so I didn't tell you." Elder Xianchen was speechless. F***CK. If you have the exemption talisman, you should have told me earlier. Then I wouldn't have comforted you. I wouldn't have planned to risk my life to enter the third layer of the world battlefield and cross a long distance to find my fellow disciples of the Xiantian sect. At this moment, Elder Xianchen had an impulse to beat Yi Tianzong up, but he gave up the idea after thinking about it. Elder Xianchen calmed down and took the exemption talisman that Yi Tianzong handed over. He said, "Don't worry, I will tell the law-enforcing elder about this exemption talisman. The sect will not be greedy for your credit and reward." After that, Elder Xianchen hurried out and arranged for a disciple of the Xiantian sect who had been in the world battlefield for 100 years to hand over the exemption talisman to the law-enforcing elder. Yi Tianzong didn't have any thoughts about handing over the exemption talisman. It was purely because the exemption talisman was useless in his hands for the time being. Besides, this thing could be seized from the hands of the powerhouses of other worlds in the future. There was nothing to be regretful about. 3 days later, the law-enforcing elder brought 1,000 Xiantian sect disciples at the 3rd and 4th heaven of the Myth Realm to Xiantian City. As soon as they arrived at Xiantian City, the law-enforcing elder met Yi Tianzong. After learning about the details of the matter from Yi Tianzong, he also saw the content that Yi Tianzong recorded with the light mirror. After reading it, the law-enforcing elder's stern and resolute face softened a little. He said, "I already understand what happened. You did very well. You are meticulous. Also, this light mirror is a very practical thing. This time, you have made a great contribution and offered the exemption talisman. When the time comes, the sect will not be stingy with the reward. However, after all, I owe you a favor. I can promise you a request that is not too excessive. You can tell me what you think. As soon as the law-enforcing elder finished speaking, Xian Chun and the other core disciples at the fourth heaven of the myth realm revealed envious expressions. Yi Tianzong thought for a while and said, I don't have any other requests. If possible, I think the law-enforcing elder can agree. When the sect rewards at the end, don't forget about the sect disciples who were with me and those who died in battle. Although I did not tell the other disciples about the discovery of the primal crystal mine to ensure safety and prevent the news from leaking out, I did not tell them about it. However, no matter what, these disciples and those who died in battle risked their lives with me in the dangerous world battlefield to search for resources and treasures for the sect. They played a part in the discovery of the primal crystal mine. If it were me, I might not have been able to discover it. I hope the sect will not forget to reward them as well. I am willing to share a portion of the reward that belongs to me with them. After hearing Yi Tianzong's words, the law-enforcing elder's gaze when he looked at Yi Tianzong became even gentler and gratified. As a God King expert, he could easily tell whether Yi Tianzong was sincere or not. Obviously, Yi Tianzong's words were very sincere and did not have the slightest intention of being pretentious. This made the law-enforcing elder sigh in his heart that Yi Tianzong was indeed worthy of being the future pillar chosen by the sect's higher-ups. He was very satisfied with Yi Tianzong. At the same time, Elder Xian Chun and the other core disciples at the fourth heaven of the myth realm could not help but become serious because of Yi Tianzong's words. There were subtle changes in their gazes when they looked at Yi Tianzong. 2 days later, the law-enforcing elder and 1,000 mystic sky sect disciples changed their appearances and auras under the lead of Yi Tianzong. They followed Yi Tianzong to the valley where the small primal crystal mine was located. After passing through layers of formations set up by Yi Tianzong, the law-enforcing elder and the mystic sky sect disciples finally saw the true appearance of the primal crystal mine. Excited and happy expressions appeared on everyone's faces. With the law-enforcing elder watching, the mystic sky sect's mining of primal crystals had officially entered the track. Yi Tianzong did not participate in the mining of the primal crystal mine. Instead, he used many of the materials he brought to set up a disorienting illusory formation that covered a radius of 1 kilometer in the valley. Then, he set up a small teleportation formation in the cave that was relatively far away from the primal crystal mine. Although it was easy to set up a teleportation formation in the 10 Great Worlds, it was extremely difficult to set up a teleportation formation in the world battlefield. Due to the unique rules of the world battlefield, the difficulty of setting up a teleportation formation was completely different from setting up a teleportation formation in the world battlefield. Not only did the materials used increase by more than 10 times, but even the distance of the teleportation formation was greatly reduced. The small teleportation formation that Yi Tianzong set up could only teleport 5 people at a time. The maximum distance it could teleport was 50,000 kilometers. With this small teleportation formation, it could greatly reduce the probability of danger due to a long journey. After Yi Tianzong set up all the formations, he found the law-enforcing elder again and told him that he wanted to go out and explore alone. After serious consideration, the law-enforcing elder said, "With your strength, if you let other disciples follow you, they'll be a burden. I agree with you going out on your own, but you have to remember that if anything happens, don't rashly get involved. Always pay attention to your own safety." Yi Tianzong said seriously, "I understand, Elder. I definitely won't put myself in a dangerous situation." After thanking the law-enforcing elder for his advice, Yi Tianzong left alone after resting for 2 days. Under the traceless void, Yi Tianzong, who was flying in the air, felt as carefree as a bird flying in the sky. Chapter 255. Yi Tianzong, who was wandering alone in the world battlefield, didn't let his guard down just because he was powerful. He maintained the state of void fusion at all times and quietly searched for other resources and treasures in the world battlefield. Yi Tianzong scouted the situation around him as he headed towards the place where the demon race, the phoenix race, and the ancient race were confronting each other. It had been more than 4 months since he encountered the demon race, the phoenix race, and the ancient race. He didn't know how the situation was now. Yi Tianzong slowly flew for half a month and once again arrived at the place he had marked before. After arriving at the surroundings, Yi Tianzong saw the camps built by the demon race, the phoenix race, and the ancient race from afar. However, this time, Yi Tianzong discovered that the number of people of the 3 races had increased by several times. Altogether, there were more than 10,000 people. Yi Tianzong didn't act rashly. Instead, he first left this place and used the body displacement ability to completely change his aura and appearance. He directly turned into a demon. After everything was ready, Yi Tianzong used the traceless void again and quietly lurked near the camps built by the demon race, the phoenix race, and the ancient race. The demon race, the phoenix race, and the ancient race would definitely send more than one divine king powerhouse to supervise and preside over the mining of the primal crystal vein. Although Yi Tianzong's traceless void was amazing, it still couldn't hide in the face of a divine king powerhouse. Yi Tianzong's plan was to find the right time to capture a member of the demon race and then directly soul search to obtain more details of the large primal crystal vein. Previously, Yi Tianzong thought of ambushing, robbing, and escorting the primal crystals on the way. The demon race, the ancient race, and the phoenix race must have built teleportation formations in their respective camp. The chances of Yi Tianzong robbing them were very slim. The members of the demon race, the ancient race, and the phoenix race almost never walked out of their camp. Yi Tianzong waited for a whole month before he saw a member of the phoenix race, who was equivalent to the 4th firmament of myth realm, leave the camp and then wander around aimlessly. Although it wasn't a member of the demon race, it was better than nothing. Yi Tianzong quietly followed this member of the phoenix race. After he was 100 miles away from the phoenix race's camp, he first laid a disorientating illusion formation to hide the fluctuations that might be caused by the battle. Then, Yi Tianzong directly attacked that member of the phoenix race. A domineering and ferocious dominating world-suppressing fist. With Ye's strength, he instantly struck the member of the phoenix race who was in a dazed state. Yi Tianzong erased the traces of his attack, carried the unconscious member of the phoenix race, and quickly flew 5,000 miles away. Then, he removed all the possible hiding places on the unconscious member of the phoenix race. Then, he sealed the phoenix race's entire strength. After confirming that there wouldn't be any accidents, he didn't wake up the unconscious member of the phoenix race and directly began to violently search his soul. After Yi Tianzong violently searched his soul, the member of the phoenix race screamed hysterically due to indescribable pain. After screaming for more than a quarter of an hour, Yi Tianzong stopped searching his soul. Then, he slapped the member of the phoenix race who couldn't resist and completely destroyed his corpse. After removing all traces, Yi Tianzong once again left this place and planned to find a place to hide. Yi Tianzong learned about the large-scale crystal mine from the soul search just now. He didn't expect the demon race, the ancient race, and the ancient race to be so cautious. The large-scale crystal mine was more than 2,000 miles away from the camp they built. At the same time, the ones mining the Yuan crystal vein this time weren't the 3 supreme being forces that had discovered the Yuan crystal vein. Instead, 3 more supreme being forces had joined in. The demon race, the ancient race, and the phoenix race each had 2 supreme forces. There were a total of 6 forces with more than 20,000 people. Each force sent 2 God King realm experts to oversee the team. The unlucky member of the Phoenix race who was caught and killed by him wasn't a very important existence in the Phoenix race. This time, he was bullied by other members of the Phoenix race when he was mining the crystal mine. After returning to the camp, he was unhappy and wanted to go out for a walk. As a result, he was targeted by Yi Tianzong. When a member of the Phoenix race went missing, the Phoenix race would definitely conduct a large-scale search to prevent the news of the large-scale crystal mine from leaking out. For safety's sake, Yi Tianzong directly left 30,000 miles away. Then, he changed direction and took a big detour. He avoided the Phoenix race, the Demon race, and the Ancient race's alert range and headed towards the large-scale crystal mine. Just as Yi Tianzong was stealthily heading towards the location of the large-scale crystal mine, the Phoenix race's camp increased their alert level due to the disappearance of a member. At the same time, they began to search everywhere for any suspicious clues. However, Yi Tianzong had already erased all traces after he took action. In the world battlefield, apart from the supreme heavenly venerables, no one could look back on what happened in the past. The Phoenix race's search didn't yield any result. However, this also raised the vigilance of the Phoenix race, the Demon race, and the Ancient race. They once again mobilized more people from their respective camps to strengthen their forces. On the other side, Yi Tianzong directly took a big detour. After flying for more than half a month, he quietly arrived near the location of the crystal mine. Yi Tianzong spent a month carefully exploring the surroundings of the primordial crystal mine with his golden eyes of illusion breaker. After that, he avoided all the arrangements of the Devil race, the Ancient race and the Phoenix race, and found a very hidden place. Then, he began to dig a hole to the primordial crystal mine. Yi Tianzong used the rock-shifting divine ability of Whip Mountain to go 10 miles underground bit by bit. Then, he moved towards the location of the crystal mine. There was a unique set of heaven and earth law in the world battlefield. It was very different from the heaven and earth law in the 10 boundless world. Therefore, after coming to the world battlefield, the strength of the creatures of the various worlds would be greatly weakened. In fact, it wasn't that their strength had weakened. It was just that the world battlefield's rules suppressed the power of all attack method. It became more difficult for every myth realm expert to mobilize the power of laws. The hardness of any material in the world battlefield was many times greater than the hardness of the same material in the 10 boundless worlds. For example, it was very difficult to dig a hole in the ground of the world battlefield. This was because the hardness and density of the ground were very high. Even a God King expert wouldn't be able to destroy the ground easily. If they were in their own great 1,000 worlds, it would be a piece of cake for a divine king to destroy an area of 100,000 miles. However, in the world battlefield, not to mention the godly king zone, even in the second layer of the third and fourth heavens of the myth realm, a godly king would find it difficult to destroy an area with a radius of 100 miles. Even opening up a passageway 10 miles underground would take a lot of effort. However, Yi Tianzong was different. For some reason, although Yi Tianzong's strength didn't change much when he was fighting against the enemy in the myth realm, he had long discovered that it was easier for him to use his divine ability than anyone else. The suppression of the world battlefield's rules on him was much lighter. After thinking about it, Yi Tianzong could only attribute it to his identity as a junior disciple determined by the immortal mansion. After all, the purpose of the world battlefield, trial battlefield, was to hone oneself, increase one's foundation, and allow one to have the opportunity to fight against other peerless geniuses and race experts to hone oneself, find out one's shortcomings, and explore more potential. Therefore, one's strength would neither increase nor decrease. However, it would be much more relaxed when it came to using divine abilities to gather resources and other things that had nothing to do with fighting. Therefore, Yi Tianzong was able to open a passage 10 miles underground in just 3 days. However, Yi Tianzong's method of opening the underground passage was very particular. First, he directly opened a passage 2 miles underground. Then, He expanded the 2-meter diameter passage into a spherical space with a diameter of 10 meters. After that, he turned around and used the rock-shifting divine ability to fill up the 2-kilometer deep tunnel that he had just opened, returning it to its original state. It was as if the 2-kilometer deep tunnel from before had never appeared. Finally, he used the 5 elements escape technique to sneak into the spherical space that he had just opened at a depth of 2 miles underground. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Tianzong could only use the 5 elements escape technique to sneak 2 miles underground, Yi Tianzong would have wanted to continue digging deeper. After sneaking into the spherical space again, he continued to use divine abilities to open the passage until he was 10 miles underground. Then, he changed direction and continued to open the passage toward the Yuan crystal vein. Yi Tianzong could be said to be extremely cautious. He erased all traces on the surface to avoid any possibility of being discovered by the Devil race, the Ancient race, and the Phoenix race. He directly began to dig from the depths of the ground. Because the Devil race, the Ancient race, and the Phoenix race couldn't go as deep as Yi Tianzong, they could only slowly dig from the surface. A large Yuan crystal vein stretched for at least 500 miles, and the part that went underground was 15 to 20 miles deep. Yi Tianzong dug from the depths of the ground and was hundreds of miles away. The Devil race, the Phoenix race, and the Ancient race couldn't discover Yi Tianzong at all. In this way, Yi Tianzong could unscrupulously dig for Yuan crystals under the noses of the Devil race, the Phoenix race, and the Ancient race. In this way, Yi Tianzong spent half a month and finally opened the passage to the Yuan crystal vein. After feeling the extremely rich energy aura, Yi Tianzong looked at the sparkling and translucent Yuan crystals without any hesitation and directly dug happily. At a place 1 mile away from the Yuan crystal vein, Yi Tianzong directly opened up a 3 feet tall cubic space. When he was tired from digging, he would rest for a while in the open space. When he had enough rest, he would continue digging. With a pair of gloves made of profound feather fantasy crystal and no risk of being discovered by others, Yi Tianzong's digging speed was very fast. He could dig out about 10,000 Yuan crystals every day. Yi Tianzong kept digging like this for 3 months and dug out a total of 1.3 million Yuan crystals. This was a huge fortune. With his strong mental state cultivation, Yi Tianzong resisted the urge to continue digging. After resting for 2 days, he returned to the surface through the underground passage and the 5 elements escape technique. After erasing all traces, Yi Tianzong used traceless void to travel 1,000 miles away. After completely leaving the Devil race, the Phoenix race, and the Ancient race's alert area, Yi Tianzong let out a long sigh of relief. Thinking back to how he dug out the Yuan crystals like a madman, Yi Tianzong couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. One had to admit that treasures were very tempting. Things like Yuan crystals had a wide range of uses and could be used for cultivation. When faced with a Yuan crystal vein that could be mined freely, even a god king or great emperor-level expert would find it hard to resist the temptation. When Yi Tianzong started digging, it was still considered normal. However, later on, he unknowingly sank into the temptation of the Yuan crystals. All the thoughts in his mind were to keep digging and digging like a madman. He dug for Yuan crystals day and night like a madman. No matter if it was his god body, god essence, or god soul, they were all constantly being consumed. If it wasn't for his instinctive sense of danger that woke him up, Yi Tianzong might have died from exhaustion from digging for the Yuan crystals. It seems like my mental state and willpower aren't cultivated enough. In the future, I will only take out 4 months to dig for the Yuan crystals. The rest of the time will be spent in the world battlefield, looking for opponents, training myself, fighting with different experts, absorbing resources and experience, and unearthing more potential. In the end, I didn't come to the world battlefield to look for treasures. After making up his mind, Yi Tianzong's figure flashed and his aura changed to that of an ordinary fourth firmament myth. Then, He stopped hiding and kept his vigilance as he swaggered through the world battlefield. Chapter 256. Time passed day by day. On the vast world battlefield, countless forces and living beings from the 10 colossal worlds were involved in countless battles and deaths due to various reasons. It had been 30 years since Yi Tianzong had decided to explore the world battlefield alone. During these 30 years, Yi Tianzong had encountered many living beings and experts. He had encountered countless ambushes, traps, encirclements, plots, and other crafty plots. He had also encountered countless battles. Because Yi Tianzong was alone, he had regained his identity as a human. He had only changed his appearance. He was wandering alone in the world battlefield. He was only a human at the 4th sky of Myth Realm. So what if he was very powerful? Any force that discovered Yi Tianzong would not mind eliminating Yi Tianzong. During these 30 years, Yi Tianzong had encountered all the dominant races of the 10 colossal world. Yi Tianzong had fought with God King level forces, Emperor level forces, and Supreme level forces. He had also competed with the supreme geniuses of the various races and forces. Yi Tianzong had encountered hundreds of life or death crises. Every time, he had been heavily surrounded by supreme level forces. They had surrounded Yi Tianzong and tried to kill him. Although Yi Tianzong could detect everything within a radius of 10 miles, he was only one person. Yi Tianzong could trigger the traps set up by hundreds or thousands of people in advance. However, it was impossible for him to avoid them every time. The supreme geniuses of the supreme level forces did not have any intention of fighting one-on-one. They knew that Yi Tianzong was a huge threat, so they decided to bully him with numbers. The supreme geniuses of each force were responsible for attacking Yi Tianzong. The rest of them would assist him from the side and block Yi Tianzong's escape route. They would not let Yi Tianzong have a chance to escape. Every time, Yi Tianzong had to use all his means and go through a difficult battle to escape from danger. The most dangerous time was when Yi Tianzong was surrounded by a supreme force from the greater thousand world of the Protoss. At that time, there were a total of 1,000 members of the Protoss who surrounded Yi Tianzong. They were led by 2 5th Heaven Prides who possessed the Immunity Talisman and 10 4th Heaven Pride. These 12 powerful Heaven Prides of the Protoss Supreme Force had reached the 1,000 Elephant Formation that Yi Tianzong had set up in the Black Heaven sect. They were super experts at the 2nd heaven of the Supremacy level. That was not all. These 1,000 Gods race members were led by a God King expert who possessed an exemption talisman. Although Yi Tianzong knew that the divine race weren't targeting him, he was still unlucky enough to meet them. Previously, Yi Tianzong had fought with the divine race many times. Because of the commotion he had caused, all the races within a radius of 1 billion miles knew Yi Tianzong's appearance very well. Faced with the siege of these divine race members, especially the God King who was eyeing him covetously, even Yi Tianzong thought that he was doomed. However, he did not expect that the battle between Yi Tianzong and the divine race would attract the attention of other forces. One after another, 2 supreme forces of the human race, 1 supreme force of the ancient race, and 1 supreme force of the dragon race came to the surrounding area because of the fluctuations caused by the battle. Fortunately, the arrival of these 4 supreme forces made the God King expert of the divine race unable to lower his pride and take advantage of the situation to attack Yi Tianzong in public. A God King who possessed an exemption talisman couldn't take the initiative to attack living beings below the God King realm in other areas. However, Yi Tianzong was surrounded and everyone else was his enemy. Naturally, he didn't have any scruples when fighting. If the God King of the divine race infiltrated the divine race's team and Yi Tianzong attacked the God King without any scruples, it would be equivalent to provoking the God King. The God King of the divine race would then be able to attack Yi Tianzong without being punished by the rules of the world battlefield. Gathering so many people and powerful heavens prides to besiege Yi Tianzong was already shameless enough. The contempt and ridicule of the divine race from the four supreme forces made the God King of the divine race furious. If the God King of the divine race dared to take advantage of the loopholes in the rules to attack Yi Tianzong under the watchful eyes of these supreme forces, then the divine race's heaven's prides would be in danger in the future. If the divine race dared to do this in public, then who knows how many other races' heaven's prides you had plotted against behind their backs. Since you did this, then the divine race's heaven's prides would have to wait and see in the future. In particular, there were two supreme forces of the human race watching the battle. If the divine race dared to interfere, they would swarm over. In the end, the God King of the divine race could only stand aside and watch the battle. Yi Tianzong had used up all his means and detonated many weapons and forbidden weapons that he had seized. Finally, he managed to break out of the encirclement while being seriously injured. Then, he was rescued by two human supreme forces who were watching the battle. The two supreme forces of the human race that rescued Yi Tianzong were the ethereal divine sect and the ancient green mysterious sect. The founders of the ethereal divine sect and the ancient green mysterious sect, ethereal heavenly venerables and heavenly venerables Qing Xian, were both peak heavenly venerables. They were only one step away from becoming supreme heavenly venerables. The two of them had known each other for many years and had a good relationship. Therefore, the people of the ethereal divine sect and the ancient green mysterious sect also had a very harmonious relationship with each other. Whether it was in the human race's great thousand world or the world battlefield, they advanced and retreated together. This time, it was a coincidence that they met Yi Tianzong and the divine race. They were all disciples sent from the great thousand world to the world battlefield to gain experience. They were led by a God King expert. On the way to the encampment, they happened to encounter Yi Tianzong being surrounded by the divine race. As fellow humans, although they did not have a good impression of Yi Tianzong, they really could not bear to see the divine race bully him. Therefore, the God King deterred the divine race from the side and finally rescued Yi Tianzong, who was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Yi Tianzong regained consciousness on the 5th day after he was rescued. Then, he spent 10 days and finally recovered a small part of his injuries. It did not affect his movement and he directly asked the people of the ethereal divine sect to leave. Both the God Kings of the ethereal divine sect and the ancient azure mysterious sect wanted to recruit Yi Tianzong into their sections. However, Yi Tianzong made it clear that he had a master and belonged to a sect. He tactfully rejected the good intentions of the two God Kings. Fortunately, the God Kings of the ethereal divine sect and the ancient azure mysterious sect were more upright. Although they were unhappy with Yi Tianzong's rejection, they did not think of killing Yi Tianzong directly. As for Yi Tianzong, who rejected the good intentions of the two God Kings of the ethereal divine sect and the ancient azure mysterious sect, he could no longer stay in the ethereal divine sect's encampment. After he left, he directly left the ethereal divine city. After a few hundred miles away from the ethereal divine city, Yi Tianzong directly used the traceless void and carefully made his way to the location of the large-scale Yuan crystal mine. Using a large amount of Yuan crystals, Yi Tianzong finally spent 2 months to recover from his injuries. After digging for Yuan crystals for 2 months, Yi Tianzong continued to roam the world battlefield alone. However, after experiencing the desperate situation of being besieged by the God race, Yi Tianzong did not dare to continue to swagger around. Instead, he used the traceless void to roam around without any aura or presence. If he encountered teams that did not pose too much of a threat to him, Yi Tianzong would remove his concealment state and swagger around in front of them. If those teams did not attack him, Yi Tianzong would not take the initiative to find trouble with them. However, if he encountered a team with ill intentions, then a huge battle would be unavoidable. When he did not encounter any teams, he would search for treasures everywhere. In the past 30 years, Yi Tianzong had experienced countless battles. His biggest gain was that he had found 2 precious mineral veins, one large yuan crystal mineral vein and 3 medium-sized yuan crystal mineral veins. The 2 resource veins, the large-scale primal crystal vein, and one of the medium-sized primal crystal veins, were more than 1,000,000 miles away from the Mystic Heaven City of the Mystic Heaven sect. The furthest primal crystal vein was more than 30 million miles away from the Mystic Heaven City. Although discovering these resource veins and yuan crystal mines was something to be happy about, Yi Tianzong could not count on the Black Heaven sect. It was even more impossible for him to do it alone. All Yi Tianzong could do was find a few locations and think of a way in the future. Fortunately, after going through countless battles, he had obtained 2 immunity talismans from the enemies he killed. Even if he advanced to a higher realm in the future, he could return at any time. After wandering around for 30 years, he had experienced many battles and life and death crises. At the same time, because of the countless battles and life and death crises, Yi Tianzong had been greatly tempered. He had accumulated a lot of experience and knowledge, and he had unearthed more of his potential. His strength had once again increased by 2 levels above his peak. At the same time, Yi Tianzong could clearly feel that his Sea of Heart realm had once again improved by a lot. He had probably reached the late stage of the Sea of Heart realm. He had obtained many natural treasures from the enemies he killed, and he had also accumulated more than 8 million yuan crystals. Yi Tianzong felt that he had been tempered enough. It was time to return to the Black Heaven City to take a look. Yi Tianzong cautiously avoided any teams along the way. When he was close to the Black Heaven City, Yi Tianzong returned to his original appearance and changed into the Black Heaven sect's disciples' clothes. Then, he walked into the Black Heaven City with some emotions. Although there were many people in the Black Heaven City, under normal circumstances, other than the Black Heaven sect's disciples who were in charge of guarding, the others were seizing the time to cultivate in their respective rooms, trying their best to improve their strength and methods. After being confirmed by the Black Heaven sect's disciples on guard, Yi Tianzong went directly to Elder Xian Chen's room. Elder Xian Chen had stayed in the world battlefield for 100 years because of the small yuan crystal mine, but he still did not leave. After 30 years, Elder Xian Chen was in disbelief and a little excited to see Yi Tianzong again. Then, he stared at Yi Tianzong and patted his shoulder. He said angrily, "You brat, you still know to come back. I haven't seen you for 30 years and there's no news. I thought you had been destroyed by other forces long ago. I've been regretting agreeing to let you go out alone all these years. I didn't expect you to still be alive." Yi Tianzong smiled awkwardly. After all, there was no news for 30 years. It was indeed a little inappropriate. Thus he could only lie and say, "I've made you worry. It's indeed my fault, but I had no choice. I've been hunted down all these years and didn't dare to come back. I was afraid of bringing trouble to the sect. It was only recently that I got rid of the hunt and rushed back to the Black Heaven City." "Then I'd like to hear how you spent all these years. You were hunted down and afraid of bringing trouble to the sect? Brat, aren't you looking down on our Black Heaven sect too much?" Elder Xian Chen still said angrily. Yi Tianzong looked at Elder Xian Chen's reaction and thought that there was nothing to hide. As long as he didn't tell the other Black Heaven sect disciples, it would be fine. Thus, he roughly told Elder Xian Chen about his experiences over the years, including the excavation of the Yuan crystal mine and the matters related to his secrets. He basically told Elder Xian Chen about everything else. Hearing Yi Tianzong's story, Elder Xian Chen didn't care at first, then he was shocked and in disbelief. In the end, he was numb and expressionless. After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, he took out some of his battle scenes recorded in the light mirror. Elder Xian Chen fell silent. "So, you're the rogue? You mean that in addition to fighting over the years, you also found 2 resource veins, a large yuan crystal mine and 3 medium-sized yuan crystal mine?" After Elder Xian Chen digested Yi Tianzong's words, he looked at Yi Tianzong in a daze and asked, If the rogue you are talking about is a lone person wearing blue clothes and holding a golden long sword, then it should be me. It's just that for safety, I used magic to deliberately change my face. Yi Tianzong thought for a while and said. Then Yi Tianzong continued, Now, Elder, do you still think that the sect can protect me if I return to the Black Heaven City before getting rid of the hunt? Elder Xian Chen, alas. I originally thought that I had overestimated you enough, but I didn't expect that I still underestimated your amazing level. I really can't imagine that you have grown to such an extent. With your talent and strength, it is really a waste for you to stay in our Black Heaven sect. Even among those supreme forces, you are definitely second only to the strongest geniuses. Forget it, I don't care. I will inform the law enforcement elder and tell him the news of your return. Also, don't tell anyone else about your matter. I will inform the law enforcement elder. These years, you have been carrying out the secret mission assigned by the law enforcement elder. For your safety, don't go out anymore. Wait for the law enforcement elder to come back and deal with everything. Also, during the time when I am out, you will manage the Black Heaven City on my behalf. Elder Xian Chen said with a little blow, then he let Yi Tianzong leave. After Yi Tianzong left, Elder Xian Chen called the disciple in charge of guarding the Black Heaven City. After instructing him, he left the Black Heaven City through the teleportation formation in the Black Heaven City and headed towards the small Yuan crystal mine. Chapter 257. What? You mean Yi Tianzong came back alive? He's been hunted down all these years. The rumored rogue is him? Are you sure you're not lying to me? The law enforcement patriarch looked at Elder Xian Chen in disbelief. Yes, although it's incredible, I saw some of the battle scenes recorded by him with the light and shadow mirror. It's indeed him. I've told him not to mention his experience to others. During the time he disappeared, you gave him a secret mission to carry out. He came back after the mission was completed, Elder Xian Chen said with certainty. Well, you did the right thing. Just tell the public. Haha, I really didn't expect that we all underestimated him. Rogue. Hey, as long as there are no accidents, maybe in 1,000,000 years, our Xian Tian sect may become a supreme force? The law enforcement patriarch seemed to be talking to himself. All the races and forces within a radius of 1,000,000,000 miles gradually found out about the rogue, who had gradually become famous on the world battlefield over the years. The rogue was a human. He was alone at the fourth heaven of mythological realm. His origin was unknown. He held a golden long sword and always dressed in blue. However, he was very powerful. He had fought with all the races in the 10 great thousand worlds, as well as God-King level, Emperor level, and Supreme forces. Every time, he could kill his way out of the encirclement and escape danger under the encirclement of the powerful teams of various forces. Unless it was a God-King level powerhouse, even a sixth heaven powerhouse of mythological realm, who had an exemption talisman would have to take a detour when they encountered a rogue alone. Who would have thought that Yi Tianzong, who was thought to have fallen long ago, was a rogue who was domineering on the world battlefield? The law enforcement patriarch had never been so excited and glad as he was at this moment. He was excited because Yi Tianzong was so amazing. He was excited because he had agreed to let Yi Tianzong go alone. He was glad that the Xian Tian sect could have Yi Tianzong. By the way, in addition to fighting and avoiding being hunted down, Yi Tianzong also found 2 resource veins, a large Yuan crystal vein, and 3 medium-sized Yuan crystal veins over the years. However, except for the 2 medium-sized Yuan crystal veins, the other resource veins and Yuan crystal veins are too far away from us. He just remembered their locations. As for the 2 medium-sized Yuan crystal veins that are relatively close to us, the nearest one is more than 500,000 miles away from Xiantian City, and the further one is more than 800,000 miles away. He asked us whether we should go and mine now. He has arranged a concealment formation there, but I'm not sure how long it can be hidden. Elder Xianchen said another important news. The law enforcement patriarch, Elder. It's not a good thing for a disciple to be too outstanding. After a moment of silence, the law enforcement patriarch said seriously, "Don't tell anyone about this. You will leave the world battlefield in a few days. After returning to the sect, tell the sect master the news. Don't tell anyone else. Although the Yuan crystal vein is very precious, it is too far away. We have to act according to our ability. With the strength of our Xian Tian sect, it is not enough to resist the spying of the outside world. We must not leak the news. After we finish mining this small Yuan crystal vein, we will talk about other things. After you leave, the matters in Xiantian City will be managed by Yi Tianzong." After listening to the law enforcement patriarch's words, Elder Xianchen nodded seriously, then left the small Yuan crystal vein and returned to Xiantian City. After returning to Xiantian City, Elder Xianchen directly called Yi Tianzong and told him about his departure. He also asked him to manage Xiantian City on behalf of him. Yi Tianzong did not refuse this identity. Instead of letting others manage him, it was better to let him manage others. However, before Elder Xianchen left, Yi Tianzong secretly gave him a storage bag, which contained 10,000 yuan crystals. Elder Xianchen was now at the peak of the sixth heaven of Myth Realm. The pure and majestic energy and the huge wealth contained in these yuan crystals were enough to make Elder Xianchen's accumulation and foundation stronger, increasing the chances of breaking through to the Divine King realm. After Elder Xianchen left, Yi Tianzong maintained his usual work and rest schedule. Anyway, there was nothing else to do in Xiantian City. Now, the main energy of the Xiantian sect was to mine the small yuan crystal vein. The people in Xiantian City took turns mining. They changed every half a month. This was also to avoid Xiantian sect disciples. Because of the temptation of yuan crystals, they would go crazy and have a mental breakdown. On the other hand, after Elder Xianchen left the world battlefield, he quickly returned to Xiantian sect in a low-key manner. The first thing he did when he returned to Xiantian sect was to look for his master, who was also the sect leader of Xiantian sect. The sect leader of Xiantian sect was called Lin Xiantian. He was a super expert at the peak of the Divine King realm. He was from the lineage of one of the three great emperors of Xiantian sect, the strongest late great emperor ancestor. Lin Xiantian was also a genius of his generation. In 30,000 years, he cultivated to the peak of the Divine King realm like a hot knife through butter. He had also opened 5 gates of law. He was currently the Divine King in Xiantian sect, who was most likely to break through to the Great Emperor realm. The sect leader of Xiantian sect, Lin Xiantian, had a total of 6 disciples. Xianchen was ranked 3rd. The first, Li Yuanchen, had already broken through to the Divine King realm 3,000 years ago. The second was a female disciple called Shaolingyun. She had been in seclusion for a long time, trying to break through to the Divine King realm. However, there was no good news even after a few hundred years. "Xianchen, why are you in such a hurry to see me? Did something happen in the world battlefield? Is there a problem with the mining of the yuan crystal vein?" Lin Xiantian asked solemnly. "Master, nothing happened in the world battlefield. The mining of the yuan crystal vein is also normal. I'm in a hurry to come back because I have something more important to tell you. Please confirm that no one can hear our conversation," Xianchen said respectfully. "There's something more important than the mining of the yuan crystal vein? Tell me about it. Don't worry, no one can hear you," Lin Xiantian said in surprise. Then, he waved his hand and formed a barrier with the power of law, blocking the connection between Xiantian Palace and the outside world. "Yes, it's like this." Xianchen told Lin Xiantian everything about Yi Tianzong. After he finished, he even opened the light mirror that he had taken from Yi Tianzong before he left and showed Lin Xiantian the content recorded. After Lin Xiantian finished reading the content recorded in the light mirror, 2 rays of dark green light shot out from his eyes and pierced through the void in Xiantian Palace. After pondering for a moment, Lin Xiantian said, "Regarding Yi Tianzong, other than you, me, and the law enforcement elder, don't tell anyone else. I really didn't expect this little guy to be so troublesome. However, if a genius wants to grow, it's destined to be accompanied by endless bloody battles and dangers. Perhaps the world battlefield is the most suitable place for him. It's a pity that our Xiantian sect's strength is still not enough. Secretly mining a small yuan crystal vein is already the limit of not being discovered by other forces. After all, there are more than 1 million disciples in the sect. There will definitely be spies from other forces. If we mine another medium-sized yuan crystal vein and the news is leaked, the sect will be in danger of being destroyed. Let's talk about it in the future." "Yes, master. I understand," Xianqin replied. Then, Lin Xiantian asked some other things about the world battlefield and let Xianqin leave. In the world battlefield, it had been half a year since Xianqin left. The Xiantian sect had once again sent an elder to take charge of the second level of the Xiantian city. After some consideration, Lin Xiantian did not want anything unpleasant to happen between him and Yi Tianzong. In the end, he sent out someone that Yi Tianzong was familiar with, Elder Lin Tong, who had been in the first level of the world battlefield back then. After all these years, Elder Lin Tong had already advanced from Mythical Tier 5 to the later stages of Mythical Tier 6. He was Lin Xuantian's 6th inner disciple. After Elder Lin Tong led the 500 core disciples of the Xiantian sect to the Xiantian city, he patted Yi Tianzong's shoulder happily and said, "Kid, I haven't seen you for almost 100 years. You're still so troublesome." Yi Tianzong also smiled and said, "I can't help it. I can't stay idle. Now that you're here, I'm free." After hearing Yi Tianzong's words, Elder Lin Tong smiled and did not say anything. Before he came, his master, the Xiantian sect's sect master, had told him not to interfere with Yi Tianzong's decision when he arrived in the Xiantian city. He could do whatever he wanted. It was not suitable for him to be bound to the small Xiantian city. Only on the world battlefield could Yi Tianzong obtain better tempering and growth. Although Lin Tong did not know why his master said this, he was not stupid. He knew that there must be some secrets that he did not know. Since his master said so, he naturally had no objections. Moreover, he was very familiar with Yi Tianzong long ago and had a good relationship with him. He was not stupid enough to become enemies with Yi Tianzong. After Lin Tong brought the disciples of the Xiantian sect to the Xiantian city, Yi Tianzong continued his journey of wandering. After transforming into his previous rogue appearance, Yi Tianzong once again appeared in the vision of the major forces. While cautiously fighting with the creatures of the various races and forces, he continued to search for treasures and dig for crystals on the battlefield. However, this time, Yi Tianzong was no longer unheard of for decades. Instead, he would return to the Xiantian city every 10 years or so or meet with the law enforcement elder. There was no change in the 4 seasons on the world battlefield. Instead, it was always in a constant state. In a trance, 70 years had passed. Yi Tianzong had stayed in the world battlefield for more than 100 years. In the 70 years after his appearance, Yi Tianzong's reputation as a rogue had completely resounded throughout the vast range of 2 billion miles. While many creatures admired and worshipped him, they also hated him to the core. In the 70 years, Yi Tianzong had engaged in bloody battles with the human race, the demon race, the phoenix race, and many other forces of the 10 major races. Assassination, ambush, traps, and other means were all used. He also encountered more dangers. He killed countless disciples and prodigies of various forces, especially the prodigies of the god race. Yi Tianzong did not forget that the god race was the one who caused the most dangerous life and death crisis. Therefore, among the prodigies that he killed, at least a quarter of them were from the god race. Many forces of the god race were so angry that they wantonly searched for Yi Tianzong's traces more than once. For this reason, they did not hesitate to have many conflicts with the forces of other races. It was a pity that Yi Tianzong was like a fish in water on the world battlefield. When he could not escape the pursuit of the god race, he would directly hide underground using the 5 elements escape technique, and then open up a space deep underground to avoid the search of the god race. Even the power of the God King powerhouse's divine soul could not detect the situation 10 miles underground. Therefore, Yi Tianzong could escape the pursuit every time. This made the races and forces, including the god race, who wanted to kill Yi Tianzong, hate and kill Yi Tianzong skyrocketed. They could not wait to turn Yi Tianzong into ashes. Later, even the God King powerhouses joined the ranks of the large-scale search. Considering his safety, Yi Tianzong directly hid in the space opened up underground and dug up yuan crystals. After the commotion died down, he came out again to fight the enemy to the death. He used all kinds of means and fully displayed the tactical concept of guerrilla warfare. It could be said that Yi Tianzong's fame as a rogue increased greatly because he trampled on the emperor-level forces of various races. At the same time, after 70 years, Yi Tianzong collected a lot of resources and discovered more resource veins and yuan crystal veins. Even if his strength was like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood, Yi Tianzong would excavate and store some of the resources he discovered. There was also the number of crystals. After many years of mining, Yi Tianzong had accumulated more than 23 million crystals. Chapter 258. Yi Tianzong, who couldn't wait to leave the world battlefield, returned directly to Xiantian City. At this time in Xiantian City, the law enforcement elder was also there. After seeing Yi Tianzong return, the law enforcement elder's serious face smiled. He patted Yi Tianzong's shoulder and said, "Are you going to continue going out or return to the sect?" Lin Tong's eyes widened. He couldn't believe that the law enforcement elder, who had always been serious and upright, was so kind to Yi Tianzong. Then he heard Yi Tianzong say with a smile, "It's time to go back. If I don't go back, I'll be in danger. There are too many enemies. I have to go back to the sect to hide. The next time I come to the world battlefield, it should be in the 3rd area." Lin Tong was a little confused. After hearing Yi Tianzong's words, the law enforcement elder laughed a few times and scolded Yi Tianzong jokingly, "Not bad, you brat. The whole world is your enemy. If you continue to be active, you might die one day. It's time to go back to the sect and rest for a while." "What the hell, what are you guys talking about? I'm still here. Can you not act like there's no one else around? Consider my feelings." Elder Lin Tong really couldn't understand what Yi Tianzong and the law enforcement elder were talking about. It seemed like there was a big secret hidden between them. The whole world is Yi Tianzong's enemy. What are you doing? Do you have to be so exaggerated? Why don't you say he's a rogue? He's the one who has enemies all over the world. Wait, F***ck, there's something going on here. It seems, maybe Yi Tianzong might really be a rogue. In the 70 years since Lin Tong came to the world battlefield, he had long been familiar with the name rogue. Lin Tong sincerely admired the strength and means of rogue. Although Yi Tianzong often disappeared without a trace, Lin Tong had never thought that Yi Tianzong was a rogue with the law enforcement elder's cover. However, through the somewhat inexplicable conversation between Yi Tianzong and the law enforcement elder today, and thinking about how every time Yi Tianzong disappeared, a rogue would appear, and what Lin Xiantian told him before, Lin Tong felt more and more likely. His gaze towards Yi Tianzong gradually became brighter and brighter. At this time, 3 immunity talismans appeared in Yi Tianzong's hand, appeared in his hand. He said to the law enforcement elder, "These are the spoils of war these years. And of's not very useful to me." Seeing the 3 exemption divine talismans, Lin Tong's eyes went wide. There were only 3 of them in the entire Black Heaven sect, and one of them was obtained by Yi Tianzong in the world battlefield. And now he got 3 more. You're going against the heavens. By now, Lin Tong was sure that Yi Tianzong was a rogue. The law enforcement elder was a little surprised to see the 3 immunity talismans. He thought for a while and said, "If you don't want to keep these 3 immunity talismans, you should give them to the sect master when you return to the sect. This kind of thing is still very important to the sect. When the time comes, you can definitely exchange it for a lot of rewards and contribution points." "Okay, got it," Yi Tianzong replied and put away the immunity talismans in his hand. Yi Tianzong had obtained 7 immunity talismans over the years. Although they were not very useful to him for the time being, he could not guarantee that he would need them one day. It was quite worth it to keep 4 of them and hand over 3 of them to the sect in exchange for some rewards. Lin Tong on the side finally said with some excitement, "Yi Tianzong, I really didn't expect you to be. You're already the most amazing disciple in the history of our mysterious sky sect." After hearing Lin Tong's words, Yi Tianzong and the law enforcement elder were surprised at first, then they smiled. Yi Tianzong said, "Elder Lin Tong, since you've guessed it, please keep it a secret. After all, you also know that I've caused a lot of trouble." "Don't worry, I know the severity of the matter. I will never tell anyone else. I'm just surprised that you're a rogue. Your current strength should have surpassed mine," Elder Lin Tong said with some excitement. Hearing Lin Tong's words, Yi Tianzong chuckled twice, then he waved his hand, and 2 storage bags appeared in his hand. He said to Lin Tong and the law enforcement elder, "Although I've been hunted down all these years, I've also found some good things. Although I'm alone, I've also dug some mineral veins. Take these things as a thank you for your care over the years. I'll leave for Mysterious Sky Sect tomorrow, so you don't have to send me off. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first," Yi Tianzong said and handed the 2 storage bags to the 2 of them, then he left. Watching Yi Tianzong leave, Lin Tong also returned to his room after informing the law enforcement elder. When he saw the things in the storage bag, he couldn't hide his excitement. He jumped 3 times on the spot and calmed down after a while. When the law enforcement elder was the only one left, he also looked at the things in the storage bag and muttered to himself, This kid, these things are quite heavy." There were 30,000 yuan crystals, 1 cubic meter of yin-yang true crystal and profound feather fantasy crystal in the storage bag. The next day, without informing anyone, Yi Tianzong and more than 100 Mysterious Sky Sect disciples left Mysterious Sky City, left the second layer of the world battlefield, and headed towards the War God Temple in the human race's colossal world. After arriving at the War God Temple, Yi Tianzong directly entered the exchange room and looked at the battle merits he had accumulated in the past 100 years. There was a total of more than 15 million battle merit. After Yi Tianzong found the treasures and spiritual herbs he needed, he immediately exchanged them. When he was left with 5,000 battle merits, Yi Tianzong stopped. Using more than 15 million battle merits, Yi Tianzong not only exchanged all the resources he, Ling Xinyue, Shen and his parents needed to cultivate secret techniques before reaching the 6th heaven of mythological realm, but he also exchanged some other treasures of heaven and earth that were worth cultivating. After the exchange was completed, Yi Tianzong led the other Mysterious Sky Sect disciples and left the War God Temple. Then, they followed the huge group through the teleportation Stargate and Void teleportation formation. It took them more than a month to finally return to the Mysterious Sky Sect. After returning to the Mysterious Sky Sect, he was summoned by the sect master of the Mysterious Sky Sect the next day. After meeting with Lin Xiantian praised Yi Tianzong's performance and contributions on the world battlefield. After Yi Tianzong offered 3 exemption divine talismans, Lin Xiantian directly rewarded Yi Tianzong with 50 million contribution points and allowed Yi Tianzong to go to the scripture depository and choose 10 minor divine abilities from the core disciple area. He also promised that after the small primordial crystal vein was mined, Yi Tianzong's reward would not be lacking. After Yi Tianzong chose 10 divine abilities in the scripture depository, Yi Tianzong used his contribution points to exchange for many spiritual herbs and spiritual herbs, as well as 10 medium-sized spirit veins. Then, he returned to Haoran Peak. On Haoran Peak, Yi Tianzong learned about some of the things that had happened in the 100 years that he had been away. Perhaps the sect's upper echelons had warned the true disciples, but during the years that Yi Tianzong had been away, no true disciples came to cause trouble. Even the other core disciples rarely came to cause trouble. Everything had developed more peacefully. Moreover, during the 100 years that Yi Tianzong had been away, the number of mysterious sky sect's disciples who had joined Haoran Peak had reached 10,000. Yi Tianzong rewarded the core disciples who had worked hard to manage Haoran Peak over the years with a large number of divine essence pills, divine body pills, and divine soul pills. He also taught them some divine abilities and answered their questions about cultivation. Then, he took out 10 medium-sized spirit veins that he had exchanged with his contribution point. After setting up the 10 medium-sized spirit veins on Haoran Peak to form a super spirit gathering formation, the concentration of heaven and earth's vitality on Haoran Peak had greatly increased. In one leap, it had become a cultivation place in the entire mysterious sky sect that was second only to the Divine King Realm experts' residences. After he was done with everything, Yi Tianzong went into seclusion and began to cultivate the 6th refinement of the 9 refinements of nirvana. During the 100 years that he had spent in the world battlefield, Yi Tianzong's accumulation in all aspects had long reached the standard. Therefore, after a year, Yi Tianzong had successfully completed the 6th refinement of nirvana. His strength had improved once again, and at the same time, his unfathomable potential had increased once again. According to the classification of the 1,000 Elephant Formation, Yi Tianzong's current strength had reached the level of a level 5 Supreme Being. After coming out of seclusion, Yi Tianzong continued to stay for 5 years and refined many elixirs that could be used by mythical level experts. Then, he continued to announce that he would go into seclusion. After a month of seclusion, Yi Tianzong disappeared from the great thousand world of the human race with a thought and returned to the colorful barrier. He could not wait to return to the outer cultivation area of the immortal mansion and saw Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu who were cultivating. Without saying anything, they were intimate with each other. He stayed in the heavens expanse immortal mansion with Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu for half a month. He briefly told them about his situation in the world battlefield before leaving the heavens expanse immortal mansion with the two of them. After walking out of the immortal mansion, Yi Tianzong first went to meet Yi Haoran and the others. Then, he leisurely patrolled the 7 peaks, including the Tiangang Peak. Heaven and earth had just finished expanding for more than 10 years and would not be able to expand again in a short period of time. Yi Tianzong's cultivation realm had already reached the peak of the profound spirit world and could not be improved anymore. There were still at least 50 to 60 years before the will of heaven and earth indicated that the outer space crisis would arrive. During this time, Yi Tianzong suddenly realized that there was nothing important to do. Yi Tianzong, who did not have anything important to do, accompanied Ling Xinyu and Shen Yu to complete the 6th transformation of the True God 9 transformations, looked after Yi Haoran and the others to complete the 3rd transformation of the True God 9 transformations, or went to help Haoran's disciples who were building the battle fortress and sky patrol battleship. Just like that, 10 years passed again. During these 10 years, Yi Tianzong not only used origin crystals to rearrange all the formations on the 7 peaks, including the Tiangang Peak, but also carried out a more detailed classification of the 1,000 Elephants Formation. There were 5 levels: normal, elite, prodigy, king, and supreme. Each level was further divided into level 1 and level 2, just like Black Sky Sect's 1,000 Elephants Formation. After the rearrangement, The cultivation environment of the 7 peaks occupied by the Hao Ranjin sect was already the best in the profound spirit world. Moreover, because of the origin crystals that Yi Tianzong brought back from the world battlefield, all the myth realm elites of the Hao Ranjin sect had their cultivation speed greatly increased. Until now, the Hao Ranjin sect had a total of more than 350 myth realm elite. A total of 65 of them had stepped into the second heaven of myth realm, and 27 had reached the third heaven of myth realm. Among them, there were 10 people including Yi Tianzong, Ling Xinyue Yi Haoran, and the others. All of them were at the peak of the fourth heaven of myth realm. Spring passed, and autumn came. It was time for the once-in-a-decade greatest Wu Xing competition in the Central Plains. This time, what surprised all the forces in the Central Plains was that the Penglai sect, which was far away in the boundless ocean, had also come to the supreme holy city and arrogantly requested to participate in the greatest Wu Xing competition. If the Penglai sect did not show up, Yi Tianzong would have forgotten about them. He did not expect them to come out and court trouble again. The current Central Plains was different from the ancient times. Because of the existence of the Divine Transcendence Pill and the Divine Origin Pill, the total number of myth realm elites in the Central Plains had reached at least 10,000. In ancient times, the Penglai sect's actions of kicking a man when he was down had offended many factions in the Central Plains. Now that the demon race was no longer a concern and the strength of the various factions was rapidly recovering, the Penglai sect had actually jumped out recklessly. Wasn't that purely courting death? Sure enough, just when the Penglai sect people thought that with 4 fourth heaven of myth realm elites and a total of 15 myth realm elites, they could act arrogantly and rule the world. More than 200 myth realm elites of the 4th heaven of myth realm, and those below the 4th heaven of myth realm, who came out because of the expansion of the world stood out and directly aimed at the Penglai sect's myth realm elites with murderous intent. Yi Tianzong, who really did not want to see the Penglai sect causing trouble, did not wait for the myth realm elites of the Central Plains to besiege them. Instead, he unleashed his peak aura. Because he had experienced countless battles in the world battlefield, the invincible and unrivaled spirit that he had nurtured reached through heaven and earth and shook the 9 heavens. Instantly, the entire vast world within a radius of millions of miles was shrouded by Yi Tianzong's bursting aura. Winds and clouds surged across the vast world, and the vital qi of the world went berserk. Everyone, including those 4th heaven myth realm elites, felt endless pressure and shock under Yi Tianzong's bursting aura. It was as if they were facing the king of gods, and could not summon the slightest thought to resist. Yi Tianzong's palm covered the sky and directly suppressed everyone from the Penglai sect. Even if those myth realm elites resisted with all their might, it was futile and they were directly obliterated into ashes by Yi Tianzong. After casually dealing with the Penglai sect people, Yi Tianzong said nonchalantly, "Let the competition continue." Chapter 259. The greatest Wu Xing competition in the Central Plains had ended without a hitch. Another 30 Wu Xing elites, who emerged from the competition, had obtained divine elixirs and divine essence elixirs. Even so, every major faction from the Central Plains was still unable to calm down. At the same time, they were even more in awe of the Hao Ranjin sect and Yi Tianzong. This was especially true for those 3rd and 4th tier myths elites who had just awakened after the expansion of the world. At first, they thought that even if they were no match for Yi Tianzong, they would not be too much weaker. After all, the gap between each tier of the 9 heavens of myths was getting wider. However, after Yi Tianzong unleashed his peak aura and effortlessly suppressed the many myths elites of the Penglai sect with a single palm, every myth elite knew that they were overthinking things. They were too far away from Yi Tianzong, as if they were from 2 completely different worlds. Their arrogant thoughts were also kept in check. The consequences of their explosive spikes were too severe. It was better for them to continue their cultivation. After Yi Tianzong and Yi Haoran led the people of the Hao Ranjin sect back to Tiangang Peak, they began to discuss the matter of completely wiping out the Penglai sect. At first, Yi Tianzong and the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect had forgotten about the Penglai sect. However, since the Penglai sect recklessly came out to make their presence known, they might as well get rid of such a hidden danger. They could also use the islands that the Penglai sect occupied to set up a stronghold in the seas and lay out their plans in the boundless seas, allowing the Hao Ranjin sect to reach a wider range of influence. After deciding to completely wipe out the Penglai sect, the Hao Ranjin sect, which had already become a super overlord of the profound spirit world, began to move. The Hao Ranjin sect had claimed supremacy over the Penglai Divine Island and the countless islands and vast seas around it. If they were to destroy the Penglai Divine sect, the Hao Ranjin sect would have to make a grand display of force to cleanly dispose of the Penglai Divine sect, all the surrounding seas and islands. Therefore, in order to wipe out the Penglai sect, the top brass of the Hao Ranjin sect had decided to activate 4 war fortresses and 40 patrollers, mobilizing 5 million Hao Ranjin sect disciples. By now, the Hao Ranjin sect had completed the construction of 7 war fortresses and 70 sky patrol battleships. It had more than 15 million official disciples and ruled over a vast area of 100 million miles. Through the Haoran Branch Academy, it indirectly controlled a huge territory of 300 million miles. While the Hao Ranjin sect was preparing, Yi Tianzong had already stepped into the boundless seas and headed directly in the direction of the Penglai Divine sect, according to his memory. Having not been to the Penglai Divine sect for many years, without the spatial coordinates near the Penglai Divine sect, the Hao Ranjin sect would not be able to reach the destination in one go even if they had the void portal. Therefore, Yi Tianzong had to determine the location first. Yi Tianzong used his understanding of spatial laws to cross a distance of several million miles in one step. In less than half a day, he could see a huge island lying in the middle of the boundless seas. It was as large as a continent and was at least 100 million miles wide. After recording the spatial coordinates of the surroundings, Yi Tianzong did not linger. Instead, he turned and left, heading back the way he came. After returning to the Hao Ranjin sect, Yi Tianzong had a discussion with the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect on how to manage such a huge place like the Penglai Divine Island. It would be too unrealistic to let the Hao Ranjin sect fully occupy it. In the entire Central Plains, the Hao Ranjin sect's territory was only 100 million miles wide. The Penglai Divine Island, let's call it that for the time being, was a huge territory with a radius of 100 million miles. The Hao Ranjin sect simply could not occupy all of it. If too much power was placed on the Penglai Divine Island, it would easily affect the development of the Hao Ranjin sect. After all, the Hao Ranjin sect was now the best place for cultivation in the entire world. It could be said to be a paradise. Moreover, it already had a unique development plan and track. Although the Penglai Divine Island was also an excellent place for cultivation, it was much worse than the Hao Ranjin sect's Tiangang Peak. Once too much power and manpower were scattered, it would affect the overall development of the Hao Ranjin sect. A slight move in one part would affect the whole situation. After some consideration, Yi Tianzong and the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect decided to pull in their allies. Hence, they notified the Lingyun Hall Master, the Kunlun Clan Master, and the 10 Great Sacred Lords, asking them to bring their own fourth heaven of myth elite. When the Lingyun Hall Master and the others learned that the Hao Ranjin sect intended to wipe out the Penglai Divine sect once and for all, the Penglai Divine sect was too big. Even so, since Penglai Divine Island was too large to be occupied, none of them hesitated when it came to pulling them into the fight. All of them declared that they would mobilize their respective forces and cleanly wipe out the Penglai Divine sect. Half a month later, the Hao Ranjin sect, the Lingyun Hall, the Kunlun clan, and the 10 Great Sacred Grounds had gathered a total of 50 million people in the Haoran mountain range. The sacred grounds of the Demon clan in the depths of the Haoran mountain range were almost scared to death. They thought that the Hao Ranjin sect was going to wipe them out. When the mythical beasts of the demon clan came to inquire about the situation, they found that it was a false alarm. A void formation that spanned 100 miles was shining with majestic power. Then, all the myth elites, the battle fortress of the Hao Ranjin sect, the Sky Patrol warships, the Lingyun Hall, the Kunlun clan, and the 10 great sacred grounds all passed through the void teleportation formation. Then, the 50 million disciples of the 13 forces, including the Hao Ranjin sect and the Lingyun Hall, passed through the void teleportation formation. In the boundless sea, millions of miles away from the Penglai Divine Island, in the sky thousands of miles above, waves of violent and chaotic space energy raged for thousands of miles. The fluctuating space energy attracted the attention of all the Wuxing elites, and above, within tens of thousands of miles. Under the watchful eyes of the Wuxing elites and mythical elites, who came one after another, the fluctuations in the space energy became more and more obvious and violent. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, a space crack grew bigger and bigger until it was 100 miles wide. Because of the expansion of the space crack, the energy in the surroundings became more turbulent and chaotic. The fluctuations in the space energy were transmitted to tens of thousands of miles away. Before the people around could guess what was going on, they saw a huge black shadow appear from the space crack. It was a behemoth that looked like a small city. It was the battle fortress of the Hao Ranjin sect. Not long after the appearance of the first battle fortress, the second, third, and fourth battle fortresses appeared one after another. Behind them were the Sky Patrol warships, the giant warships of the Lingyun Hall, the Kunlun clan, and the 10 great sacred grounds. When the people of Penglai Island and other islands around the space crack saw the appearance of these war fortresses, they had a bad feeling. Before they could come up with any countermeasures, among the more than 300 war fortresses of various sizes, a vast aura that reached the heavens and the earth appeared in the world one after another. Under the shocked and dumbfounded expressions of all the people of the sea region, more than 100 powerful auras that dominated the world appeared one after another. In particular, the most powerful aura that Yi Tianzong exuded almost froze the space within tens of thousands of miles. The hearts of all the people of the sea region suddenly sank into the abyss. Even an idiot could see that these people did not come with good intentions. Yi Tianzong, Ling Xinyue, Xin Yu, and other myth realm elites did not wait for the large number of disciples who came after them. Instead, they left 10 Sky Patrol warships to guard the space crack and receive the disciples who came after them. Then, all the myth realm elites and the war fortresses, under the leadership of Yi Tianzong, went directly to the Penglai Divine Mountain in the center of Penglai Island. This is bad. They are here to cause trouble for the Penglai sect. I have to inform the sect at once. When the Penglai sect disciples in the crowd saw the direction that Yi Tianzong and the others were heading towards, they hurriedly informed the higher-ups of the Penglai sect through acoustical talismans. Meanwhile, the martial artists on the other islands in the sea region were watching the murderous stance of Yi Tianzong and the others with mixed feelings. Some were gloating, some were worried, and some were delighted. Even so, those who had witnessed what happened were thinking of ways to inform their respective factions or spread the news at once. The Penglai sect's base camp was on the Penglai Divine Mountain. However, since Yi Tianzong turned into a demon envoy 200 years ago and caused havoc in the Penglai sect, the Penglai sect had never given up on searching for the culprit. However, when they learned that the culprit was a demon envoy from the abyssal demons, the Penglai sect did not make any move. Arriving at the Penglai sect again after so many years, Yi Tianzong led Ling Xinyue, Xin Yu, and more than 120 myth realm elites straight to the Penglai Divine Mountain in the center of Penglai Island. For myth realm elites, even if they were only at the first tier of myth realm, the distance of a few 100 million miles could be covered in less than an hour. When Yi Tianzong and the others arrived at the Penglai Divine Mountain, the Penglai sect had yet to receive news of the enemy's invasion and was still minding their own business. Even so, when Yi Tianzong and the others arrived, the myth realm elites of the Penglai sect immediately felt as if they were facing a formidable foe. Yi Tianzong had no interest in talking to the Penglai sect at all, and instead said to Ling Xinyue, Shen Yu, and the myth realm elites behind him, "Leave the Penglai sect's secret realm to me. You deal with the rest." With that, Yi Tianzong nodded at Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu, before directly attacking one of the Penglai sect's second-tier myth realm elite. That second-tier myth realm elite was heavily injured and captured by Yi Tianzong without being able to resist at all, and then violently soul-scouring him using his powerful spirit power. After getting the information they wanted, the Hao Ranzhen sect crushed the Penglai sect myth realm elite to death, and then headed straight for an extremely hidden place in the Penglai Divine Mountain. Using the information obtained from soul scouring, Yi Tianzong easily opened the secret realm of the Penglai sect, where all the myth realm elites were sleeping. He fearlessly stepped into the secret realm, and then the sound of fierce fighting could be heard, but it stopped abruptly in just a quarter of an hour. Yi Tianzong walked out of the Grotto Heaven secret realm unscathed. Inside the Grotto Heaven secret realm, the 5th and 6th heavens elites of the Penglai sect were all wiped out by Yi Tianzong's thunderous method. Then, he directly used Traceless Void to hide all traces, and arrived at the location of the Penglai sect's treasure vault. This treasure vault was specially used by the Penglai sect to store resources used by myth realm elites, and was filled with all kinds of precious treasures of heaven and earth and treasures collected by the Penglai sect since the mythological era. With a wave of his hand, Yi Tianzong laid out a disorienting illusory formation, and then opened the treasure vault according to the method of opening it, and entered it. Chapter 260. Please recommend and bookmark me. Please support me, readers. Thank you. The moment he entered the vault, Yi Tianzong was stunned by the rare treasures before him. Good heavens! There were quite a few of them. All of the spiritual herbs were over 10,000 years old, while some of the best materials for crafting items were at least 100,000 years old. The Penglai sect was so rich that they must have plundered a lot of good stuff. Yi Tianzong didn't put them all away. Instead, he put away the most precious things. For example, there were 7 supreme materials for crafting items that were over 1,000,000 years old, which were enough for crafting Empyrean weapons. There were also treasures and spiritual herbs that were over 300,000 years old. In total, he collected hundreds of items. After collecting everything, Yi Tianzong exited the vault and restored it to its original state, before dispelling the disorienting illusory formation. Once again concealing his presence and presence, Yi Tianzong visited the other treasure vaults of the Penglai sect and collected all the most valuable items in those vaults. After collecting the most precious items from the vaults, Yi Tianzong ascended to the peak of the 9 heavens. There were a total of 30 myth elites from the Penglai sect here, fighting against more than 120 myth elites from the Hao Ranzhen sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 holy grounds. Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu were watching the battle from the periphery, preventing the Penglai sect members from escaping. All the myth realm elites were above the 9 heavens, and a one-sided massacre was taking place on Penglai Divine Mountain. Howren was waiting for the Sky Pillar faction's war fortresses, sky-patrolling warships, and other warships in the Lingyun Hall, slaughtering the Penglai sect members effortlessly. And no matter how the Penglai sect members resisted, they could not break through the defenses of all the war machines. Many of the Penglai sect members wanted to run when they saw that things were not going well, but more than 300 war machines of various sizes surrounded Mount Penglai from every direction. Apart from a handful of people who escaped using the warp portals on Mount Penglai, none of the Penglai sect members could escape. On the other hand, after Yi Tianzong believed that the mythical champions of the Penglai sect had no chance of escaping, he did not stay for long. Together with Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu, he went straight to Mount Penglai and joined in the encirclement of the Penglai sect, wiping out all who tried to escape. Yi Tianzong, Ling Xinyue, and Shen Yu were all beings of the 4th heaven of the myth realm. Killing martial artists below the myth realm was just a matter of thought for them. Their tyrannical aura spread, and all martial artists below the myth realm were suppressed by endless pressure, coughing up blood as they knelt on the ground. At the same time, the three of them also spread the range of their spiritual power at full power. Unlike the greater thousand realms of the human race, Yi Tianzong's spiritual power could spread over a vast area of millions of miles. While Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu could not spread over millions of miles like Yi Tianzong, it was not a problem for them to spread over millions of miles. Under the trio's probing, none of the Penglai sect members who were hiding were found, and with a wave of attacks, those who were hiding were completely wiped out. As for the Penglai sect members who fled through the portals, they had no chance of escaping. Outside the Penglai Divine Island, 50 million disciples and elders from the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds had arrived one after another through the void portals, and had taken control of the portals leading to the outside world at the first moment. As for the people from other islands or factions on the Penglai Divine Island, they dared not interfere with the Sky Pillar faction's operations in the face of the menacing and endless legions of sky-patrolling warship. In less than a day, under the assault of the Sky Pillar faction formed by the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds, the main forces of the Penglai sect had been wiped out. Every myth realm elite was slain, leaving only the remnants scattered across the vast Penglai Divine Island. Even so, with the main forces destroyed, it was only a matter of time before the remaining Penglai sect members were wiped out as well. After wiping out every Penglai sect member on the Penglai Divine Mountain, it was time to reap the spoils of war. Yi Tianzong led every myth realm elite from the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds to open the Penglai sect's treasure vaults one after another. Yi Tianzong, Ling Xinyue, and Shen Yu did not participate in the distribution of the spoils that followed, since Yi Tianzong had taken the most valuable items anyway. Yi Tianzong, Shen Yu, and Shen Yu left the Penglai Divine Mountain at once, leaving the rest to the upper echelons of the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds to discuss the distribution of the spoils. After exuding a tyrannical aura that deterred every island faction within a billion miles, Yi Tianzong, Ling Xinyue, and Shen Yu returned to the Hao Ranjin sect through the Void Warp portal. 20 years had passed since the Hao Ranjin sect joined forces with Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds to wipe out the Penglai sect and occupy the Penglai Divine Island, carving out 1/5 of the Penglai Divine Island and leaving it to the oceanic tribes and the countless island factions in the surrounding seas for trading purposes. The remaining 4/5 of the Penglai Divine Island was divided among the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds, making it an important stronghold for each of them in the endless seas. Now that 20 years had passed, under the various measures taken by the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds, the Penglai Divine Island had become the trading center for all the oceanic tribes and island factions within a billion miles radius. It had become very prosperous. Every year, the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds had collected countless resources from the seas. Thanks to the support of these resources, whether it was the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, or the 10 sacred grounds, their already rapid development speed had taken a step further. Their overall strength had increased by at least 50%. Furthermore, with the help of the Penglai Divine Island, the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 sacred grounds had formed the Sky Pillar Camp. They had also established an alliance with more than 10 powerful oceanic tribes in the endless seas. In the endless seas, they had set up a wide influence network. The central plains and the southern wastelands of the spirit profound world were constantly increasing their strength and developing rapidly under Yi Tianzong's macro control. As for the northern border and the western regions, Yi Tianzong did not even consider them. He had only been letting the Tiangang building and the warriors for hire guild collect information and information. No matter whether the northern border and the western regions were miserable because of the demon race or were evenly matched in strength, Yi Tianzong just laughed it off. Yi Tianzong and the Hao Ranjin sect did not care about the northern border and the western regions at all. The Demon Killing Alliance and the Southern Wastelands Alliance in the Central Plains and the Southern Wastelands would also not care about the northern border and the western regions' requests for help. Weren't you guys having a lot of fun before? Continue to have fun, we'll just watch. Wanting us to help you guys is simply a dream. Wanting to move to the Central Plains and the Southern Wastelands is also a dream. Just as Yi Tianzong was peacefully accompanying Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu and watching the world situation, the spirit profound world was constantly absorbing and spitting out boundless primal chaos chi to accumulate its energy source. Hundreds of millions of miles away, there was a huge world that was rapidly moving in the direction of the spirit profound world. This was a world that was more than 10 times larger than the spirit profound world. However, if one observed carefully, they would find that the speed and efficiency of absorbing and spitting primal chaos chi in this huge world was far inferior to the spirit profound world. Even the world's membrane was filled with a decaying, gray, and destructive aura. This was a world that was heading towards destruction. At this moment, in this world that was heading towards destruction, at the highest point of the 9 heavens, 20 myth stage 6 and 150 myth stage 5 existences were working hard to maintain the heavenly cycle stellar velocity formation, allowing the world to quickly move forward. The heavenly cycle stellar velocity formation covered the entire world. All the experts above Wuzong were part of the formation, providing energy for the formation's operation. At the center of the formation, there were 3 experts with the strongest auras. They had already reached the peak of the 6th heaven of the myth realm. One was the ancestor of the 10,000 Dharma sect, who was surrounded by a myriad of laws. The other was the ancestor of the Wanxiang star sect, whose entire body was shining with starlight. The last one was the ancestor of the Celestial Mysteries sect, whose aura was unfathomable. The 3 of them were the strongest myth realm elites in the world. Taoist brother Heavenly Secrets, how long will it take for us to reach a higher world? Because we are controlling the world to advance quickly, the world's origin is rapidly depleting. If we can't reach a higher level world in 50 years, the world will be completely destroyed. At this moment, Old Ancestor Myriad Technique spoke with a solemn expression. On the other side, Old Ancestor Xingchen was also looking at Old Ancestor Tianji, who was in the center. According to my calculations, it'll take another 40 years at most. Also, according to the divine wheel left behind by my ancestor, I've deduced that the world we're approaching has some problems. It had once declined to the lowest point due to an unknown change, and now it's in the stage of recovery. But that world is very dangerous. There's a huge hidden danger, and it could easily be overturned. I don't know whether it's a blessing or a curse for us to go there, Old Ancestor Tianji said with a solemn expression. Will that affect our plan? Old Ancestor Xingchen asked on the other side. This can only be left to fate. Although I have the divine wheel left behind by my ancestor, I can only deduce a very small amount of information. The world we're approaching is already the closest high-level world to our Yuan Ling world. No matter what, we have no other choice. We can only walk this path to the end to have a chance of survival. I only hope that the creatures in that world won't be too hostile to us, Old Ancestor Tianji said helplessly. Yuan Ling world was continuing to advance quickly. In the process of advancing, it caused the boundless chaotic vital energy to riot and shake. It kept attacking the world's membrane that was getting more and more damaged. Yi Tianzong, who was far away in the profound spirit world, suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at the sky above the 9 heavens, and 2 sharp rays of light shot out from his eyes. He muttered to himself, "Looks like it's already very close." There's only about 40 years left. After so many years of arrangement, the great heavenly spirit formation was finally completed a few days ago. It's also time to spread the news. We must let the central plains and the southern wastelands' strength improve before this. After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, he immediately stood up and headed towards the Haoran Hall. He notified Yi Haoran and the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect. At the same time, he also sent people to inform the Lingyun Hall Master, the Kunlun Sect Master, the 10 Great Saint Masters, and the others. Chapter 261. Looking at the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect, as well as the Lingyun Hall Master, the Kunlun Sect Master, and the 10 Sacred Masters, Yi Tianzong said, "Everyone, get ready now. According to the hint of the will of the world, the outer world will come in about 40 years. After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, except for Yi Haoran and Lingyun Hall, who knew the news in advance, the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect and the Lingyun Hall Master were all shocked. They looked at Yi Tianzong in shock. Yi Tianzong ignored the shock of others and continued, "The news has been confirmed. You don't have to take any chances. According to some information given by the will of the world, I have already calculated that the world that is coming is a world that is on the verge of destruction. Because the world is coming to an end, the cultivators in that world have reached the peak in terms of both number and strength. Their overall strength is far beyond that of our world. At the very least, there are many existences at the 5th and 6th levels of the myth realm. And because their world is on the verge of destruction, if they can't enter our world, all the creatures in that world will be destroyed with the world. So you should be able to imagine what crazy actions the cultivators in that world will do in the face of the crisis of destruction, right?" When Yi Tianzong said this, the faces of all the people in the Haoran Hall darkened. How could they not know? If they were facing death, if there was a glimmer of hope but it was blocked by others, they would definitely drag others to die with them. The atmosphere in the Haoran Hall became very heavy and oppressive. Yi Haoran said with a serious face, "Tianzong, is there any way to avoid this war? What if we let the creatures from the outer world enter our world?" When Yi Haoran finished speaking, everyone in the Haoran Hall looked up at Yi Tianzong. Yi Tianzong shook his head and said, "War is inevitable. It's related to who will dominate our world in the future. The creatures from the outer world will definitely enter our world in the end. Otherwise, once their vitality and hope are completely blocked, they will definitely detonate the world and drag us to die with them. However, the strength of the other world is greater than ours, and the number of creatures they have is much greater than ours. Therefore, before they integrate into our world, they must go to war. In addition to determining who is superior and who is inferior in our world in the future, it is also to consume the excess creatures of the other world. At the same time, it is also to eliminate the creatures and forces of our world. After this world war, many forces and inheritances in the central plains and southern wilderness will be eliminated." After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, Yi Haoyun asked, "In that case, the enemy is stronger than us in terms of both number and strength. Doesn't that mean our world has little chance of winning?" This was the key to the problem. After the expansion of the world, the land was vast and the population was sparse. It didn't matter if some people from the outer world came, but the key was whether they could defeat them. If they could, it would be fine. If they couldn't, they would suffer. Yi Tianzong smiled and said, "You can't say that. Don't forget the special nature of our world. Although there are many experts above the 4th heaven of the myth realm in the outer world, our world has a seal. Before the next seal is broken, if the creatures from the outer world don't want to cut off their only chance of survival, they can only be suppressed to the 4th heaven of the myth realm in our world. In our world, the 4th heaven of the myth realm is just an ant to me. Even if the opponent is at the 5th or 6th heaven of the myth realm, with New Moon and Shin Yu working together with me, they can't do anything. So what we need to do next is to improve the strength of the central plains and southern wilderness as much as possible. We need to increase the number of myth realm experts and build some war weapons with great lethality. In the end, even if the creatures from the other world integrate into our world, we can still give them the western region and the northern region. As for whether or not they can truly occupy these two places, that's not within our scope of consideration. After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, everyone in Howren's hall felt a little more confident. A smile appeared on their solemn and worried faces. Especially when Yi Tianzong said that he would give the western regions and northern frontier to the creatures from the outer world. Everyone understood Yi Tianzong's intention. To be honest, no one in the Central Plains and Southern Wilderness liked the forces in the western regions and northern frontier who loved to kill the demon race and had a lot of fun. By giving these two places to the creatures from the outer world, they could not only consume the overall strength of the creatures from the outer world, but also suppress and eliminate the demon race and those scum forces. They could also increase their strength to fight against the ultimate enemy in the future. It was killing two birds with one stone. After seeing that everyone's mood improved, Yi Tianzong continued, "Ever since the will of heaven and earth began to warn us about the impending crisis from the outer world, our Hao Ranjun sect has been preparing for it. A few days ago, we finally completed a plan that is very beneficial to the entire Central Plains and Southern Wilderness. We spent countless materials and resources and spent nearly 100 years to build the Great Formation of Heavenly Spirit. The Great Formation of Heavenly Spirits covers an area of 3,000 miles and connects to the heart of heaven. Its main function is to help all the top experts in Wusheng to reach the myth realm. Not only does the Great Formation of Heavenly Spirits contain abundant vital qi of heaven and earth, but because of the support of the will of heaven and earth, it is 3 times easier to comprehend the laws of nature. With the addition of the Divine Transcendence Pill, as long as one's luck is not too bad, he will definitely reach the myth realm." After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, the Lingyun Hall Master, Kunlun Sect Master, and the 10 great sacred masters breathed heavily and stared straight at Yi Tianzong. If Yi Tianzong was not lying, then this great formation of heavenly spirits was simply a heaven-defying cheating device produced in batches by a myth realm expert. Would Yi Tianzong lie about this kind of thing? The Lingyun Hall Master and the others believed that it was impossible for him to lie. Let alone the Lingyun Hall Master and the others, even the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjun sect, who had already known about this beforehand, could not help but feel their hearts beating faster when they heard it again. Once the Great Formation of Heavenly Spirits was activated, the strength of the Hao Ranjun sect would increase by leaps and bounds. Looking at everyone's excited expressions, Yi Tianzong chuckled, but his heart was bleeding. Only the heavens knew that he had spent more than 5.6 million vital crystals to set up the Great Formation of Heavenly Spirits, not to mention the other materials and resources. Almost 90% of the materials and resources that he had purchased from the Black Heaven sect and the War God Temple in the world battlefield had been used up. This was especially true for the heavenly pool of laws that he had purchased from the War God Temple. He had spent a lot of time thinking about it before he had purchased it at the cost of 2 million battle merit. As long as the will of heaven and earth allowed the heavenly pool of laws to communicate with and reflect the laws of nature, it would greatly reduce the difficulty of comprehending the laws of nature. Obtaining the will of heaven and earth's permission was relatively easy for Yi Tianzong. However, when Yi Tianzong thought about how the resources that he had risked his life to accumulate in the world battlefield were almost used up because of this great formation of heavenly spirits, he felt extremely regretful. If it were not for the fact that he wanted to increase his status and fortune in the profound spirit world so that he could become the world lord in the future, he would not have done this kind of business that was simply too unprofitable. Yi Tianzong resisted the urge to slap the Lingyun Hall Master and the others to death. He let out a long breath and calmed himself down. Then, he said, "The Great Formation of Heavenly Spirits is divided into 3 layers. The first layer can support the cultivation of 10,000 wuxing at the peak. The second layer can accommodate 1,000 experts at the first and second layer of the myth realm to comprehend the laws of nature. The third layer can accommodate 100 experts at the third and fourth layer of the myth realm to comprehend the laws of nature. However, you have to know that there is no such thing as a free lunch in the world. This great formation of heavenly spirits was created by my Hao Ranjin sect after a long time. It consumed countless materials and resources. It originally belonged to my Hao Ranjin sect. Now, it is only shared to increase the strength of the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland. In essence, it still belongs to my Hao Ranjin sect. Therefore, anyone who wants to cultivate in the great formation of heavenly spirits will have to spend contribution points. As for the method of obtaining contribution points and the rules of using the great formation of heavenly spirits, my Hao Ranjin sect will announce the details later. As an ally of my Hao Ranjin sect, you can enjoy a 90% discount. Also, our Hao Ran sect will inform the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland of the news of the Outer World's imminent arrival at the Evil Slaying Alliance Conference in a month. Chapter 262. At this point, Yi Tianzong thought for a while and continued, "There's also the Boundless Sea region. We have to inform the entire Boundless Sea region through the Penglai Divine Island. As for whether the sea race believes us or not, it's not our concern. Do any of you have any other suggestions?" After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, everyone thought for a moment and found that there was nothing else to add. After discussing the next course of action, the Lingyun Hall Master, the Kunlun Sect Master, and the 10 great sacred masters left Hao Ranjin sect and returned to their respective sects in a hurry. After the Lingyun Hall Master and the others left, the Hao Ranjin sect took action. First, they sent people to the Demon Killing Alliance headquarters and the Southern Wasteland Alliance through the teleportation array. They informed the major forces in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland to come to the Supreme Holy City in a month. The Hao Ranjin sect would announce the fate of the world. Then, they sent people to Penglai Island through the Void Teleportation Array to preside over the overall situation. Next, the Hao Ranjin sect increased the manpower for the construction of the battle fortresses and Sky Patrol battleship. The original plan was to build 10 battle fortresses and 100 Sky Patrol battleship. Now, it seemed that it was insufficient. After Yi Tianzong discussed with the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect, they directly increased the number of battle fortresses to 20 and Sky Patrol battleships to 200. Furthermore, the Hao Ranjin sect also passed a resolution to increase the number of disciples they would recruit every year. In the current profound spirit world, although the righteous sect was fully deserving of its title as a super overlord, it had always walked the path of the elite. Even an ordinary disciple would be considered an elite disciple in the other super forces and Holy Land. Therefore, for so many years, the number of disciples in the Hao Ranjin sect had been increasing at a relatively slow rate. Now it was only 15 million, which was less than the number of disciples in the Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 great sacred lands. The Hao Ranjin sect planned to have 18 million official disciples before the arrival of the outer world. Actually, in Yi Tianzong's plan, the current Hao Ranjin sect was too bloated and had too many people. In the future, the Hao Ranjin sect would be like the Black Heaven sect in the vast thousand domains. They would reduce the number of disciples to 8 million. The rest of the disciples would be distributed to the various large cities and super cities under the Hao Ranjin sect's rule. They would help strengthen the Hao Ranjin sect's control and discover some talented disciples at the same time. It was just that right now, regardless of whether it was the time or the environment, Yi Tianzong could only wait until he completely resolved the hidden dangers of the profound spirit world and became the master of the world. A month passed by quickly. All the third-rate sects and higher-ups in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland, a total of nearly 1 million people, had arrived at the Supreme Holy City and gathered at the central square of the city. After Yi Tianzong and the higher-ups of the Hao Ranzhen sect arrived, the noisy central square instantly quieted down. Yi Tianzong did not say any polite words. His clear voice spread to the ears of everyone in the central square. He slowly told them about the arrival of the outer world and the heavenly spirit great array in 40 years. These two important news were like a sudden clap of thunder, shaking the hearts of all the people and demons who did not know before. The originally quiet central square was suddenly filled with a hubbub of voices and chaos. After everyone in the central square quieted down again, Yi Tianzong told them about the situation and strength of the outer world and this world. Then, he introduced the rules of the Heavenly Spirit Great Array in detail. At the same time, he announced that the annual auction of divine pills and divine essence pills would be increased tenfold. After the announcement, Yi Tianzong left. Yi Haoran would lead the higher-ups of the Hao Ranzhen sect to discuss the rest of the matters with the major forces in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland. After receiving the news that the outer world would arrive in 40 years, all the forces with Wu Xing level experts were most concerned about the Heavenly Spirit Great Array. After all, it was the key to whether they could survive the world war in the future. The Heavenly Spirit Great Array was set up in the Heavenly Spirit City by Yi Tianzong. The Heavenly Spirit City was located in the territory of the Hao Ranzhen sect and was 100 million miles away from the Tiangang Peak. In order to cultivate in the Heavenly Spirit Great Array, one had to have contribution points. There were many ways to obtain contribution points. For example, all the Wu Xing level experts could accept missions in the Warriors for Hire Guild to explain the mysteries of martial arts to the warriors in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland. They could also go deep into the Western regions and the Northern Wasteland to gather information. They could also do things that were beneficial to the countless creatures in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland. They could also exchange resources and so on. Contribution points could also be used to purchase all kinds of heaven and earth treasures, magic weapons, spiritual herbs, pills, and secret manuals in the Heavenly Spirit City. They could even buy divine pills, divine essence pills, divine body pills, and divine soul pills. After the Hao Ranzhen sect announced all the relevant information and rules, all the forces in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland entered a state of preparation for war. In the future, they would experience a world war. In the face of a powerful enemy, all the forces encouraged ordinary people to have more children. They also opened the doors to recruit disciples. As long as the disciples were qualified, they would accept them. The super forces and holy lands took out their assets and went to the Heavenly Spirit City to exchange them for contribution points. They bought divine essence pills, divine body pills, and divine soul pills, so that their top experts in the Wu Xing level could cultivate in the Heavenly Spirit Great Array. The myth level experts also took out their collections and exchanged them for contribution points. They then entered the Heavenly Spirit Great Array to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. While the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland were busy preparing for war and thinking of ways to increase their strength, on the distant Penglai Divine Island in the Boundless Sea region, the righteous sect joined forces with the Lingyun Palace, the Kunlun sect, and the 10 great holy lands to inform the major forces in the Boundless Sea region of the impending arrival of the outer world was also quickly spreading to the various sea clans and forces in the Boundless Sea region. At first, almost all the oceanic clans and forces in the Endless Sea didn't believe such a ridiculous thing. In response to all the voices of doubt, the Hao Ranzhen sect, the Lingyun Hall, the Kunlun sect, and the 10 holy lands adopted an indifferent attitude. They didn't care whether people believed it or not, and they didn't take any measures to make them believe it. Instead, they increased the intensity of the trade and collection of various resources. After Yi Tianzong returned to the Hao Ranzhen sect, besides accompanying Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth, He also spent every other year in the martial arts lecture hall to explain the mysteries and precautions of cultivation to all the experts in the Hao Ranjun sect who were above the Wu Zun realm. After that, he joined the ranks of the construction of the battle forts and sky patrol battleship. In the future World War, too many lives would be involved. If the Hao Ranjun sect wanted to reduce the casualties and show its absolute strength in the war, it had to build more battle forts and sky patrol battleship. Only with such war weapons could they have a greater hope and chance of survival in the World War. Moreover, with the increase of experience and the improvement of the realm, the battle forts and sky patrol battleships built by the Hao Ranjun sect became bigger and stronger, and their functions were more and more complete. In the beginning, the battle forts built were only 50 miles in length and breadth, and the best battle capacity was 300,000 people. The sky patrol battleships were only 2 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide, and the best battle capacity was 3,000 people. However, after continuous improvement, the battle forts now had a length and breadth of 80 miles, and the best battle capacity was 500,000 people, and the best battle capacity was 2 million people. They could pose a great threat to experts at the 4th heaven of Myth realm, and could pose a fatal threat to experts at the 3rd heaven of Myth realm. The sky patrol battleships were now 4 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide, and the best battle capacity was 10,000 people, and the best battle capacity was 50,000 people. They could pose a great threat to experts at the 2nd heaven of Myth realm, and could pose a fatal threat to experts at the 1st heaven of Myth realm. Whether it was the battle forts or the sky patrol battleships, they had basically reached the peak of the Lingyun realm. There were a total of 20 battle forts and 200 sky patrol battleships. The tasks and time required to build them were relatively heavy. On average, Yi Tianzong spent at least 3 months every year building the battle forts and sky patrol battleship. Chapter 263. All the forces in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland were nervously preparing, trying their best to increase their strength as quickly as possible. As for the sea clans and forces in the Boundless Sea region who had received the news, due to the Righteous sect, Lingyun Palace, Kunlun sect, and the 10 great sanctuaries' actions of collecting resources at a whale-like rate, they gradually believed the authenticity of the news and entered into a tense state of preparation for war. The Central Plains and the Southern Wastelands' actions were unusually tense, and naturally, it gradually attracted the attention of the Western regions and the Northern Border's major forces and the Demon Clan. The Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland did not deliberately hide the news of the foreign world's arrival, so the Western regions, the Northern Border, and the Demon Clan all knew about the impending World War. Because of this news, the Demon Clan actually stopped the war with the major forces in the Western regions and the Northern Border, and also began their own preparations. Under the tense and dignified atmosphere of the entire profound spirit world, 40 years gradually passed, and the foreign world, Yuan Ling world, was already close to the chaotic region where the profound spirit world was located. In the endless chaos, the Yuan Ling world that was on the verge of destruction, after another 40 years of rapid movement, finally approached the profound spirit world that was engulfing an endless amount of chaotic qi. At this time, Yuan Ling world's world origin was rapidly depleted, and the entire world membrane was full of holes, filled with the aura of destruction, decay, and ruin. Because the world membrane had almost lost its function, it could no longer engulf the chaotic qi and transform it into the qi of heaven and earth. Therefore, the chaotic and violent chaotic qi in the chaos passed through the holes in the world membrane and invaded the Yuan Ling world, corroding and assimilating everything in the Yuan Ling world. 1% of the entire Yuan Ling world had already been assimilated by the chaotic qi and returned to chaos. At this time, above the 9 heavens of the Yuan Ling world, Ancestor Tianji said excitedly, "We're finally close to another world. All our efforts have not been in vain. We've finally found a place for the creatures of this world to live." Ancestor Myriad Art and Ancestor Xing Chen were also excited. As the three most powerful ancestors in the entire Yuan Ling world, no one could truly understand how heavy the pressure was on the three of them. All the living beings in the world had staked everything on their decision. They carried the expectations, hopes, and trust of all living beings. Over the years, the three of them had been suffering all the time. Now that they were finally close to the new world they had placed their hopes on, they had lived up to the trust and expectations of all living beings. How could they not be excited? Since we're already close to another world, we should also slow down the world. We must make sure that our world connects with the new world successfully. Our world won't be able to hold on for much longer. We have to find a place to stay in the new world as soon as possible, the ancestor of the Star Palace said after calming himself down. Of course. Let us pass down the order and tell the world about this good news, Myriad Art's ancestor said. Subsequently, Myriad Art ancestor, Star Palace ancestor, and Tianji ancestor spread the news that they were close to the new world to the entire Yuan Ling world. Immediately, the beings of Yuan Ling world rejoiced. Yi Tianzong had already found out that Yuan Ling world was close to the profound spirit world through the will of heaven and earth of the profound spirit world. In at most 2 years, the foreign world would truly connect with the profound spirit world. There was not much time left. It was time to make preparations before the war. Yi Tianzong came to the Haoran Hall and gathered the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect. He said, "The foreign world has arrived and is approaching our world. In at most 2 years, the foreign world will connect with our world successfully. The space passage to our world will also be opened. Next, we have to spread this news to the Central Plains, the Southern Wasteland, and the Boundless Ocean. Now we have to make preparations for the war." After discussing how to deal with the situation, the higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect went to their respective positions and made preparations. At the same time, the news that a foreign world had arrived and would connect with their world in at most 2 years spread throughout the Central Plains, the Southern Wasteland, and the Boundless Ocean in a short month through the channels controlled by the Hao Ranjin sect. All the forces who received the news nervously mobilized and made the final preparations before the war. In the past 40 years, thanks to the heavenly spirit formation set up by Yi Tianzong, the divine level pills, 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 and the divine level pills, as well as the will of the world intentionally increasing the strength of the elites in the world, the number of mythical level elites in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland surged. In the past 40 years, the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland gained a total of more than 65,000 mythical level elite. The number of mythical level elites in the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland had reached about 83,000. Most of them were humans and demons at the first heaven of mythical level. The number of second heaven of mythical level elites had reached 21,000, the number of third heaven of mythical level elites had reached 4,500, and the number of fourth heaven of mythical level elites had reached 1,100. Among them, due to the unlimited supply of divine level pills, divine level pills, divine level pills, and divine level pills in Hao Ranjin sect, the number of mythical level elites had exceeded 1,700. More than 200 of them had reached the third heaven of mythical level, and 53 of them had reached the fourth heaven of mythical level. Their overall strength was the best in the entire profound spirit world. Other than that, the 20 battle fortresses and 200 sky patrol battleships that the Hao Ranjin sect planned to build were finally all built through the hard work of the Hao Ranjin sect disciples. At the same time, they also refined a large number of standard defensive armor. The price they paid for this was almost 90% of the materials and resources that the Hao Ranjin sect had accumulated over hundreds of years. But it was all worth it. In the upcoming World War, with these battle fortresses and sky patrol battleships, as well as the standard defensive armor that almost every Hao Oran disciple could get, the Hao Ranjin sect would definitely be able to reduce the casualties to the greatest extent. Other than the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 Great Holy Lands, which were on the same side, had the greatest increase in strength. Lingyun Hall and Kunlun sect, the two former forces that inherited the King of Gods, had at most 50 or so mythical level elites during the peak of the mythical era. But now, due to the recovery of the world and the arrival of the Otherworld, the number of mythical level elites had increased. With the permission of the will of the world, Lingyun Hall and Kunlun sect had more than 200 mythical level elite. 37 of them were at the 3rd heaven of mythical level, and 8 of them were at the 4th heaven of mythical level. This was all thanks to the heavenly spirit formation and the divine level pills, and divine level pills. There were also Taishen Holy Land, True Yen Holy Land, Heavenly Snow Holy Land, Misty Holy Land, Sky Sword Holy Land, Celestial Luo Holy Land, Flowing Cloud Holy Land, Everlasting Holy Land, Gulan Holy Land, and Carefree Holy Land. These 10 could be called the most powerful super Holy Land in the Central Plains. The number of mythical level elites in the Holy Land was more than 150. There were about 33rd heaven of mythical level elites, and 5 or 6 4th heaven of mythical level elite. Time passed day by day. The Central Plains, the Southern Wasteland, and the boundless ocean were all ready for the final war. At the same time, they might not be able to avoid the end of their inheritance because of the war. Almost all the forces had also left behind a backup plan. Under the tense and torturous wait, 1.5 years had passed. Yi Tianzong, who was at the top of Tiangang Peak, suddenly opened his eyes. The location of the space passage is in the area occupied by the northern borderline demon race. It seems that my efforts have paid off. That's right. The reason why the space passage connecting the outer world and the profound spirit world was in the area occupied by the northern borderline demon race was because Yi Tianzong had sacrificed 3 million crystals to the will of the world. The will of the world used its own power to slowly move the world. Originally, the location of the space passage should be in the boundless ocean, but Yi Tianzong thought of the unstable factor of the demon race. In order to prevent the demon race from taking the opportunity to invade the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland when they were fighting the outer world, the demon race would seize the opportunity to invade the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland. Yi Tianzong wondered if he could change the location of the space passage and turn the area occupied by the demon race into the battlefield of the World War. Chapter 264. After Yi Tianzong communicated with the will of heaven and earth of the profound spirit world, he sacrificed 3 million crystals. Finally, as Yi Tianzong thought, the location of the connection between the two worlds was fixed at the area occupied by the demon clan of the northern frontier. This way, the demon clan would bear the brunt of the attack. Since the spatial passage between the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland had been sealed, unless the demon clan abandoned the northern frontier and went to the western region, they would suffer heavy losses and their strength would be greatly reduced. Arriving at the Haoran Great Hall, Yi Haoran and the other higher-ups of the Hao Ranjin sect were all present. Yi Tianzong said, "The outer world has successfully connected with our world. In 2 months, the spatial passage will be opened. Originally, the spatial passage was located in the boundless ocean, but I communicated with the will of heaven and earth. After paying a considerable price, the world rotated a little. Now, the spatial passage will be located in the area occupied by the demon clan of the northern frontier. This way, we don't have to worry about the unstable factor of the demon clan." After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, all the higher-ups in the Haoran Great Hall heaved a sigh of relief. Before this, they were most worried that if they started a war with the outer world, the demon clan would take the opportunity to invade the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland. At that time, they would use all their strength to fight the outer world. No one could stop the demon clan from wreaking havoc. But now, they were no longer worried. Now, the demon clan should be the one suffering. In 2 months, the spatial passage connected to the outer world would appear in the area occupied by the demon clan of the northern frontier. This news spread throughout the central plains and the southern wasteland in a short 7 days. At the same time, the reason why the spatial passage would appear in the northern frontier was also spread. All the powers in the central plains and the southern wasteland heaved a sigh of relief. They began to mobilize the forces that they had already prepared. Then, they used the teleportation array to travel to the border between the central plains and the northern frontier. At the border between the central plains and the northern frontier, there were 200 giant cities, spanning 100 miles. These huge cities were built in order to prevent the demons from invading the central plains. Every year, there would be forces from the central plains stationed in these huge cities. Now, these 200 huge cities had become the encampment of all the forces in the central plains and the southern wasteland. They were also the headquarters for the upcoming war with the alien world. When the central plains and the southern wasteland unceasingly gathered towards the huge cities on the border of the northern border, the demons in the northern border also inquired about the big movements of the central plains and the southern wasteland. They noticed the seemingly endless army and all kinds of war weapons. The devil race thought that the central plains and the southern wasteland were going to launch a decisive battle against them, so they hurriedly mobilized their forces for defense. However, after figuring out the reason why the central plains and the southern wasteland were doing this, the higher-ups of the demon race were in a dilemma. Damn Yi Tianzong and the Hao Ranjin sect. The higher-ups of the demon race were so angry that they didn't know how to curse Yi Tianzong. God knew how many higher-ups of the demon race cursed Yi Tianzong and the Hao Ranjin sect after they learned that the spatial passage between the alien world and this world would appear in the area occupied by the demon race in the northern border, and that it was the work of Yi Tianzong and the Hao Ranjin sect. Many higher-ups of the demon race cursed Yi Tianzong and wished that they could burn Yi Tianzong into ashes. In fact, Yi Tianzong and the Hao Ranjin sect, as well as the major forces of the central plains and the southern wasteland, were right to be worried. The demon race did plan to invade the central plains and the southern wasteland when the forces of the central plains and the southern wasteland were fighting with the alien world after the World War began, and directly destroy the nests of the human race and the monster race. However, they didn't expect that Yi Tianzong could fix the spatial passage between the two worlds in the area occupied by the demon race at an unknown price. In this way, the area occupied by the demon race would become the battlefield between the two worlds. Unless the demon race gave up the area that they had been operating for hundreds of years, they would bear the brunt of the attack. The higher-ups of the demon race had no doubt that the central plains and the southern wasteland were very likely to reach an agreement and join hands with the creatures from the alien world in order to destroy them. Now, countless armies of the central plains and the southern wasteland were eyeing them covetously. In the hinterland of the occupied area, the spatial passage was about to be opened. At that time, they would have to face the forces from the alien world again. In such an embarrassing situation of being attacked from both front and rear, the higher-ups of the demon race simply wanted to cry but had no tears. For this reason, they racked their brains and found it difficult to come up with an appropriate solution. Just as the demon race was in a dilemma and was still racking their brains to try to come up with an appropriate solution, 2 months passed quickly. On this day, Yi Tianzong, who was located at the junction of the central plains and the northern frontier, looked at the distant horizon, and then said to the disciples of Hauran behind him, "Inform all the forces that the people and mythological beasts above the third heavenly layer of the myth realm are to gather and follow me to the hinterland of the demon race." After half an hour, more than 4,500 experts of the human race and the demon race above the third heavenly layer of the myth realm from the central plains and the southern wasteland had all arrived. Yi Tianzong looked at these experts of the human race and the demon race and said, "Today is the day when the spatial passage to the alien world is opened. Now, follow me to meet these visitors from the alien world and see what their purpose is. Let's go." After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, he, Ling Xinyue, and Shen Yu directly flew tens of thousands of miles into the sky and swaggered towards the hinterland of the demon race. After Yi Tianzong, Ling Xinyue, and Shen Yu, all the experts of the human race and the demon race from the central plains and the southern wasteland did not hesitate. They all flew tens of thousands of miles into the sky and broke out their own powerful auras. They swaggered over the area occupied by the demon race, as if they were afraid that the demon race did not know. Did the demon race know? Of course they knew. They could not wait to directly kill these experts of the human race and the demon race who swaggered over the sky, but now the experts of the demon race had no time to pay attention to them. Most of the demon gods equivalent to the third heavenly layer and the fourth heavenly layer of the myth realm also flew towards the hinterland of the demon race. The opening of the spatial passage between the two worlds caused a great disturbance. At this time, thousands of miles above the hinterland of the demon race in the northern territory, the space within a radius of thousands of miles was completely distorted. Countless spatial cracks of various sizes appeared. The destructive spatial energy could destroy everything and affected the environment within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. The distorted space emitted vast and chaotic spatial energy, causing the heaven and earth within a radius of tens of thousands of miles to be turned upside down. Yin and Yang were in chaos, the chi of heaven and earth was rioting, and an energy storm was raging. The vibration of the space was transmitted millions of miles away and could still be clearly felt. The demon gods of the demon race, all the experts of the myth realm, and the divine beasts of the central plains and the southern wasteland followed the fluctuations of the space and came to the surroundings of this chaotic world one after another. They saw the distorted space within a radius of thousands of miles and the destructive spatial energy that was escaping. Whether it was the demon gods or the myth realm experts of the central plains and the southern wasteland, they were all shocked. The demon gods of the demon race and the myth realm experts of the central plains and the southern wasteland stayed far away from each other, vigilantly watching the constantly distorted and vibrating space. As time passed, the distortion of the space became more and more severe. Those countless spatial cracks also became bigger and bigger. The raging spatial energy also became more and more majestic. Under the gaze of all the myth realm experts, after a full 4 hours of preparation and adjustment, the spatial passage between the two worlds was finally opened. Under the control of the will of heaven and earth of the spirit world, a superspatial passage with a diameter of 500 miles was suspended thousands of miles high in the sky. When the spatial passage was completely stabilized and there was no more chaotic and destructive spatial energy raging, the myth realm experts led by Yi Tianzong and the demon god realm experts of the demon race approached the spatial passage with vigilance. They stopped at a distance of 5,000 miles from the spatial passage. The myth realm experts and the demon god realm experts were waiting for the other end of the spatial passage to appear. As everyone waited with mixed feelings, the creatures from the outer world finally passed through the spatial passage and appeared in front of everyone. Thousands of tyrannical auras were transmitted through the spatial passage. Yi Tianzong and the others, as well as the demon race, sensed them. Through the auras transmitted, whether it was the myth realm experts led by Yi Tianzong or the demon god realm experts, they sensed that the weakest was equivalent to the fourth heaven of the myth realm. There were also more than 200 auras that surpassed the fourth heaven of the myth realm. These creatures from the outer world were very powerful. That was the feeling in everyone's heart. The creatures from the outer world were also more cautious. They did not pass through the spatial passage quickly, but in the end they passed through the spatial passage and appeared in the spirit world. Humans. When they saw these creatures from the outer world, everyone in the spirit world knew the identity and race of the visitors. However, the hearts of the demon gods of the demon race sank completely. Chapter 265. Among the thousands of people from the outer world who had appeared through the spatial passage, the strongest three were Myriad Spell Ancestor, Star Palace Ancestor, and Celestial Mystery Ancestor. Although their realms had been suppressed to the fourth heaven of myth due to the profound spirit world, all the mythic-level experts from the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland could sense a terrifying aura similar to Yi Tianzong's from the three of them. Interesting. It seems that there are a few worthy opponents. Seeing the people from the outer world, who were unabashedly releasing their powerful auras, Yi Tianzong said to Myriad Spell Ancestor, Star Palace Ancestor, and Celestial Mystery Ancestor. Whether it was the myth realm experts from the profound spirit world or the outer world, they were much weaker than the disciples of the Black Sky sect from the human race's greater thousand world in the Immortal Mansion. Although they were all at the fourth heaven of myth realm, the disciples of the Black Sky sect could definitely beat up the fourth heaven of myth realm experts from the profound spirit world and Yuan Ling world. Because of the difference in life origin and level, and because the Black Sky sect was an emperor-level force, they had all kinds of strange skills and divine powers. And Yi Tianzong could beat up the disciples of the Black Sky sect in fancy ways. Even the true disciples at the peak of the sixth heaven of myth realm were no match for him. Although Myriad Spell Ancestor, Star Palace Ancestor, and Celestial Mystery Ancestor were talented and the strongest in Yuan Ling world, the foundation and limitations of the world determined that no matter how amazing they were no match for the true disciples of the Black Sky sect of the same realm. They were also no match for Yi Tianzong. Looking at the vigilant people from the outer world, Yi Tianzong's mind raced. Then, he instantly disappeared all traces and aura in the void. When he reappeared, he was at the demon god camp of the demon clan thousands of miles away. With his invincible strength, Yi Tianzong seriously injured the two demon gods at the third heaven of myth realm in a flash and knocked them out. Carrying the two seriously injured demon gods at the third heaven of myth realm, Yi Tianzong disappeared again and returned to the front of the myth realm camp in the blink of an eye. Yi Tianzong only spent 1 second to go back and forth, heavily injuring and capturing the two demon deities who were equivalent to the third firmament of the myth realm. Not only were the demon gods of the Devil Clan unable to react to such a swift move, but even all the mythical experts in the Central Plains and the Southern Wilderness were unable to react in time. Only the people from the outer world, who were on high alert in front of the spatial tunnel, noticed Yi Tianzong's sudden disappearance and reappearance. Patriarch Myriad Spell, Patriarch Star Palace, and Patriarch Prophet saw how easily Yi Tianzong had suppressed 2/3 celestial layer mythic experts. Although their expressions didn't change, their hearts were greatly shaken. They knew about the uniqueness of the profound spirit world the moment they came through the spatial passage. This world could only accommodate the existence of the fourth heavenly layer of the myth realm for the time being. They were originally at the fifth and sixth heavenly layer of the myth realm, but now they were suppressed to the fourth heavenly layer of the myth realm. Although their original realm and cultivation were still there, they could only exert the strength of the fourth heavenly layer of the myth realm. It was just that the strength of these suppressed people was far beyond the ordinary fourth heavenly layer of the myth realm. At first, when they saw Yi Tianzong and the others, as well as the demon gods of the Devil Clan, they were a little arrogant. However, when they saw Yi Tianzong's strength, they immediately restrained their contempt in their hearts. Even the ancestor of Myriad Spell, the ancestor of Star Palace, and the ancestor of Celestial Mystery had to admit that with their current suppressed strength, they could not easily injure and capture 2/3 sky of myth realm existences like Yi Tianzong. Moreover, they clearly noticed that Yi Tianzong's camp and the demon god's camp on the other side were very vigilant against each other. Under such circumstances, the enemy did not even have time to react, and Yi Tianzong succeeded in an instant. Such a difficulty was absolutely impossible for the three of them. Surround those demon gods. Don't let them escape. After Yi Tianzong returned to his original position, he transmitted a message to all the mythical-level experts in the Central Plains and the southern wilderness behind him. After hearing Yi Tianzong's transmission, the Third Firmament and Fourth Firmament Godmyth experts from the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 Holy Lands did not hesitate and directly flew up. When those demon gods were still in a daze, they launched an attack on them. After hesitating for a moment, the remaining mythical-level experts all did as they were told. They stopped the demon gods who realized that the situation was not good and wanted to retreat. Only Yi Tianzong, Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu were left. Huh! What's going on? They're fighting among themselves. The thousands of people from Yuan Ling world were a little confused and did not understand why. Logically speaking, they were guests from outer space, and their purpose in coming to this world should not be difficult to guess. If there was a fight, it should be with them. Why did the other party start fighting first? Judging from the situation, it was definitely a matter of life and death. The people from Yuan Ling world were quite confused, but Yi Tianzong did not care. Instead, he took a step forward. Suddenly, a majestic aura that could suppress heaven and earth was released from his body and swept across thousands of miles of heaven and earth in an instant. It was difficult to describe the terrifying aura that Yi Tianzong displayed at this time. One only needed to know that under Yi Tianzong's invincible aura, the aura of the thousands of Fourth Firmament, Fifth Firmament, and Sixth Firmament Godmyth experts from Yuan Ling world could only barely compete with Yi Tianzong. What? How is it possible? Impossible, absolutely impossible! Exclamations of surprise and horror came from the mouths of the thousands of people from Yuan Ling world. Even the calm faces of Ancestor Myriad Spell, Ancestor Star Palace, and Ancestor Tianji, who were in the lead, were moved. Yi Tianzong's realm was a genuine Fourth Firmament Godmyth. He was not suppressed by heaven and earth like them, and they could all feel it. But it was precisely because they knew Yi Tianzong's realm that they felt extremely incredulous and in disbelief, because Yi Tianzong's aura was really too terrifying. Although aura did not represent the final strength, it could represent a large part of the strength. Yi Tianzong's aura was so strong that it was unimaginable. Who would dare to believe that his strength was weak? Not only them, but even the mythical experts from the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland, as well as the demon gods, felt Yi Tianzong's peak aura for the first time. The aura they felt before was not even 1/3 of what it was now. Horrifying, invincible, these were the only thoughts in their minds. Yi Tianzong directly threw a seriously injured and unconscious demon god to Ancestor Myriad Spell, Ancestor Star Palace, and Ancestor Tianji, who were in the lead of the experts from Yuan Ling world. Ancestor Myriad Spell used his grappling magic to transform into a giant hand that caught the seriously injured demon god that Yi Tianzong threw over. After catching the seriously injured demon god, Ancestor Myriad Spell asked Yi Tianzong with a solemn expression, "What do you mean?" Yi Tianzong smiled indifferently and said, "Nothing else, I just don't want to beat around the bush with you. Just say it directly, I know the purpose of you coming to our world. Your world is about to be destroyed and can't hold on for long. If we insist on not letting you integrate into our world, then you will definitely detonate your world in despair, which will affect our world and drag us down with you." Yi Tianzong paused when he said this. The eyes of the thousands of experts from Yuan Ling world, as well as Ancestor Myriad Spell, Ancestor Star Palace, and Ancestor Tianji, flickered when they heard Yi Tianzong's words. Obviously, Yi Tianzong had hit the nail on the head. They were indeed determined to succeed or die trying. Although it was not right to do so, it was the only way for survival. Yi Tianzong continued, "So, for the safety of our world, we have no choice but to agree to let the creatures from your world enter our world. However, even though the final outcome has already been determined, it's impossible for you to obtain the right to live in our world so easily because you're occupying our living space. We won't compromise, and the will of heaven and earth won't allow it. Chapter 266. Ancestor Tianji of Yuanling World asked, "Then according to what you said, what price do we have to pay to have this qualification?" If they could pay a price to survive in this world, no one wanted to start a war. Just as Yi Tianzong said, if they entered this world, they would be occupying the living space that originally belonged to the native creatures of this world. If they did not pay any price, even if they relied on threats to enter this world, then the native creatures of this world would definitely be hostile to them and fight them to the death. The will of heaven and earth would also reject them. This was not what they wanted. They were very clear about the power of the will of heaven and earth. Back then, when they, the mythical fifth heaven and sixth heaven powerhouses of the Yuanling world, sensed that the world was coming to an end and was about to be destroyed, they made plans to consume the world's origin to move the world to find a new world. The resistance of the will of heaven and earth was still fresh in their minds. If it were not for the Yuanling world coming to an end, the origin of heaven and earth would weaken, and the power controlled by the will of heaven and earth would not be greatly weakened. In the end, they would not have gathered the power of all living beings and suppressed the will of heaven and earth with difficulty. The moment they came to this world, they felt the boundless and supreme power of the will of heaven and earth of the profound spirit world. It was far from what the will of heaven and earth of their world could compare to. Once they were rejected by the will of heaven and earth of the profound spirit world, the consequences could be imagined. Yi Tianzong said, "If you want to obtain the qualification to survive in our world and not be rejected by the will of heaven and earth, it is very simple, and that is to destroy the devil race. You should know about soul searching. The one in your hands is the devil god of the devil race. The devil race is the public enemy of all living beings in our world. Destroying the devil race is a contribution to heaven and earth. If you want to know the reason and understand our world, you only need to soul search the devil race in your hands. I will give you half an hour." After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, he waved his hand and set up a barrier. Then, he soul searched the devil god in his hands who was seriously injured and unconscious. After a quarter of an hour, Yi Tianzong understood some of the secret information and plans of the devil race in the northern frontier. On the other hand, the devil clan's demon god, who had been intercepted by the mythical-level experts from the central plains and the southern wilderness, was very anxious. He wanted to break through the encirclement of the humans and demons and rush back to his base camp in the northern frontier. He did not even hesitate to use a secret technique to increase his strength at the expense of his vitality. However, due to the huge difference in the number of powerhouses, they were unable to do as they wished. Half an hour later, Myriad Spell Ancestor, Star Palace Ancestor, and Celestial Mystery Ancestor of Yuanling World also obtained the information they wanted from the heavily injured demon god through their own means. Then, the ancestor of the Star Palace asked Yi Tianzong, "Sir, may I know to what extent will it take to eliminate this demon?" Yi Tianzong said, "You must know that in our world, the continent is divided into the central plains, the southern wasteland, the western regions, and the northern borderline. As for the boundless sea, it is much larger than the continent. You should already know the general situation. I won't beat around the bush with you guys, so I'll be direct. You can't enter the central plains and the southern wasteland for 100 years. This is our bottom line, there is no room for negotiation. After 100 years, everyone would have to rely on their own methods. Now, you can choose between the northern borderline and the western regions. And if you want to obtain the qualifications to officially exist in our world, you have to eliminate the demon race in the northern borderline and the western regions. Eliminating the demon race is a contribution to the world, and the will of the world will allow you to survive in the world. As for how to eliminate the demon race and how to deal with the native forces in the northern borderline and the western regions, I won't ask about it. The central plains and the southern wasteland won't care either. But you have to remember that it's not that we don't have the ability to eliminate the demon race in the northern borderline and the western regions. It's just that we don't want to waste our energy and power to help these useless people. You can only survive in the western regions and the northern borderline. Also, after you clean up the demon race in the northern borderline, there will definitely be a battle between you and me. There must be a winner and loser, to determine who will take the leading position in the world in the future. I'm not afraid to tell you that in the mythological era, when our world was at its peak, there were many divine kings. However, due to the repercussions of the battle between the powerhouses in the boundless world, an evil demon emperor was suppressed in the depths of our world. Our world also declined because of this. The demon race in the abyss was corroded and infected by the demon emperor's aura. They appeared in order to kill and destroy all living things in order to free the demon emperor. The three of you are currently at the peak of the sixth heavenly layer of the myth realm. Above that is the seventh heavenly layer of the myth realm. You are just ants in the eyes of the divine kings. The great sovereign is above the divine kings, and the divine kings are also ants in the eyes of the great sovereign. Now that the world has recovered and the seal is broken, the suppressed demon emperor will be released sooner or later. So, you have no choice but to eliminate these demon race and delay the time for the demon emperor to escape. When the time comes, even if the demon emperor escapes, his vitality will be greatly damaged. Then, we may not be unable to resist. You also don't have the delusion that the suppressed demon emperor will let you go. That's unrealistic, so you have no choice. I'll give you 3 years to eliminate the demon race in the northern borderline. With the current strength of your world, it's enough to establish a foothold in the northern borderline. After 3 years, it will be the time for us to fight. This is for the sake of the fact that we are all humans. The requirements and conditions I set for you can also represent the will of the world. You should understand that my requirements are not excessive. If you are not humans, If they were not humans, although Yi Tianzong did not say it explicitly, the thousands of experts in Yuanling world understood the meaning of his cold snort. To be fair, after they understood the general situation of this world, they did not feel that Yi Tianzong's requirements were excessive. They just did not expect that the new world they found with great expectations would have such a big hidden danger, leaving them with no choice at all. It was even more impossible to find another world again. They could only do as Yi Tianzong asked. After a short discussion between Ancestor Myriad Spell, Ancestor Star Palace, and Ancestor Celestial Mystery, Ancestor Celestial Mystery said, "We agree to your conditions. I hope you will keep your word. Otherwise, the consequences will be unpredictable." Yi Tianzong sneered and said, "Humph, I mean what I say. Of course, I won't go back on my words. But since I'm already here today, I can't let it go so easily. The 3 of you, together with the other 17 Sixth Firmament Mythological Stage experts and 155th Firmament Mythological Stage experts, should be the strongest experts in your world. Take advantage of this opportunity to learn a thing or two. Come at me together. Although the 3 of you are not bad, you are far from being my match. I think you want to measure my strength. Come at me." After finishing his words, Yi Tianzong directly waved the boundless swordsmanship that had appeared in his hand out of nowhere. Then, he waved the divine sword, and endless mighty sword Qi attacked the 5th heaven and 6th heaven of myth. After the attack, Yi Tianzong smiled provocatively and went straight up to the 9th heaven. On the other side of the Yuanling world, the faces of the 6th sky and 5th sky powerhouses of the myth realm led by Myriad Art Ancestor, Star Palace Ancestor, and Prophet Ancestor, who were under attack, immediately darkened. They secretly thought that Yi Tianzong was too arrogant. After blocking Yi Tianzong's attack, they also went straight up to the 9th heaven without saying a word. Since they had been provoked like this, how could they tolerate it? They had to fight back. After the 6th heaven and 5th heaven of myth experts of Yuanling world flew up to the 9th heaven, Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu went toward the remaining 800 or so fourth heaven of myth experts together. Then, under their astonished expressions, they said, "Let's see what you're capable of." After that, a bright moon rose behind Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu. Ling Xinyue's was cold and holy, while Shen Yu's was noble and supreme. The two bright moons carried an unparalleled power that suppressed the world and launched an attack toward the fourth heaven of myth experts of Yuanling world. Chapter 267. Faced with the powerful attacks of Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu, the mythical fourth heaven experts of Yuanling world realized that the few dozen of them were no match for Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu. They did not want to bully them with numbers, but since they were already in front of them, they had no choice but to attack together. Above the ninth heaven, after the mythical fifth heaven and sixth heaven experts of Yuanling world all arrived, Yi Tianzong directly launched a fierce and violent attack. With the world-suppressing fist in his left hand and the sword technique in his right hand, the fierce and domineering world-suppressing fist print suppressed all enemies, and the sharp sword light from the boundless swordsmanship cut through everything. Yi Tianzong was invincible among the 170 experts of Yuanling world, rampaging. Compared to the encirclement and interception of the Emperor-level forces and Supreme-level forces when he was traveling alone in the world battlefield, a lineup of 175th heaven and 6th heaven mythological realm experts in Yuanling world was a piece of cake. Although these mythical 5th heaven and 6th heaven experts of Yuanling world were able to cultivate to such a level in a high-class middle world, it was enough to prove their peerless talent. Especially the myriad art ancestor, the star ancestor, and the celestial mystery ancestor, their talents were absolutely not inferior to those of some emperor-level forces in the vast thousand world. But the fundamental gap made the strength of these people incomparable to the heaven's pride of the major forces in the world battlefield. Yi Tianzong only exerted 70% of his strength, but he was able to fight back and forth with the experts of Yuanling world with ease, and even had the upper hand. But while Yi Tianzong was at ease, the mythical 5th heaven and 6th heaven experts of Yuanling world were somewhat unable to accept this result. They originally thought that although Yi Tianzong was powerful, he was simply arrogant to challenge so many of them at once. But when they started fighting, they knew, damn it, he was really awesome. Not only was he fast, he was also so powerful. They had almost exerted all their strength, but they were still suppressed. Even the most powerful myriad art ancestor, the star ancestor, and the celestial mystery ancestor, could not contend with Yi Tianzong head-on. And from the looks of it, he had not exerted all his strength. The gap was too big, it did not make sense. Was he really at the fourth heaven of the myth realm? The experts of Yuanling world began to doubt life. Myriad art ancestor, the star ancestor, and the celestial mystery ancestor, the three strongest experts, could not help but feel shocked and desperate after Yi Tianzong showed his strength. He felt. Tianzong felt that he had probed enough, he felt. Yi felt the experts of Yi. Tianzong felt. 4. After spending a lot of effort to disperse the sword cheese long river, myriad art ancestor, star palace ancestor, heavenly fate ancestor, and the others in Yuanling world did not act rashly. Instead, they looked at Yi Tianzong vigilantly. Yi Tianzong smiled faintly and said, "I have more or less understood your strength. It's not bad. It's enough to deal with the devil race. Now I'm not interested in fighting with you. Of course, if you want to fight again, I don't mind. Just now I exerted 90% of my strength. If you want to fight again, I'll go all out." Yi Tianzong deliberately said that he had exerted 90% of his strength. After that, he saw the gloomy faces of the myth realm experts of Yuanling world, but they did not do anything. Then, he continued, "Well, since you don't want to fight anymore, then go down. Do what you should do. Remember my words. I'll come back here in 3 years." After that, Yi Tianzong turned into a stream of light and went down. After Yi Tianzong left, the experts of Yuan Ling world did not delay. They were afraid that the remaining people of the fourth sky of Myth realm would misunderstand and clash with Yi Tianzong. They also quickly flew down to the ground. Below, in front of the world's space passage, Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu were fighting fiercely with more than 800 fourth sky of Myth realm experts of Yuan Ling world. Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu had countless precious resources provided by Yi Tianzong to practice the 9 cycles of True God's secret technique. They also had the superior practice environment in the Immortal Mansion, which made it easier for them to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. With all these factors added together, the foundation and strength of Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu were not weaker than some of the supreme forces of the vast Thousand World. According to the classification of the Thousand Shapes formation in the Black Sky sect, Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu had reached the peak of First Sky of Supreme Master and were close to Second Sky of Supreme Master. Their comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth had already entered the 5th sky of Myth realm. Therefore, in the face of more than 800 fourth sky of Myth realm experts of Yuan Ling world, Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu were invincible. Their beautiful figures ran rampant in the battlefield. Their divine swords shone brightly and their sword auras were unparalleled. They were actually on par with the many Myth realm experts of Yuan Ling world, which seriously damaged the self-confidence and morale of the Myth realm experts of Yuan Ling world. Originally, because of the peerless beauty of Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu, the many fourth sky of Myth realm experts of Yuan Ling world still cared about their reputation and poise. Even when they fought back, they did not use their full strength. However, as Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu's attacks became more and more fierce and overbearing, all the Myth realm experts of Yuan Ling world had no choice but to increase their strength to subdue the two. However, even if they used all their strength, they still could not do anything to Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu. This made the many Myth realm experts of Yuan Ling world feel ashamed while they were shocked by the two's strength. They were in a dilemma. They could not afford to lose face if they wanted to stop the battle. Although it was embarrassing enough that more than 800 people could not defeat 2 people. If they continued to fight, their chances of winning would be even smaller. If they lost in the end, they could forget about getting rid of this shadow for the rest of their lives. Just as the battle continued, Yi Tianzong, Myriad Art Ancestor, Star Palace Ancestor, Prophet Ancestor and others of Yuan Ling world returned from the 9th heaven one after another. When they saw the fierce battle between Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu and more than 800 fourth sky of Myth realm experts, Yi Tianzong's lips curled into a smile, while the gloomy faces of Myriad Art Ancestor and others became even uglier. Thousands of words could not describe the complicated feelings in the hearts of Myriad Art Ancestor, Star Palace Ancestor, Prophet Ancestor and others at this moment. *CK this. They simply did not know what to say. They had 170 people but could not defeat one of them, so they felt very sad. In the end, when they saw that more than 800 people could not defeat 2 women of the same realm, they instantly felt suffocated. If they prayed for the heavens to strike these good-for-nothings with lightning, Myriad Art Ancestor and others would absolutely agree with this decision. But when they thought that their battle situation was not as good as these 800 people, they instantly felt that there was nothing left to live for. They were all cultivators, but they were too ridiculously strong. It was completely unreasonable. After watching for a while, Yi Tianzong felt that it was about time, so he said, "Xinyue, Shen Yu, it's about time. Stop." When Yi Tianzong asked Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu to stop, Myriad Art Ancestor and others on the other side also hurriedly asked the 804th Sky of Myth realm experts to stop fighting. Both sides stopped fighting, and Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu returned to Yi Tianzong's side, once again forming a confrontation with the people of Yuan Ling world. Yi Tianzong said, "I won't repeat the conditions and requirements. Do you see those demon gods that are surrounded? Take it as a convenience for you, saving you the trouble of looking for these demon gods. I'll give you 30 minutes to gather people, and after that, I'll ask my people to stop. You'd better seize this opportunity to eliminate more high-level forces of the demon race, and don't let these demon gods escape. With your strength, it's more than enough to deal with these demon gods of less than 2,000 people. Of course, if you don't want this opportunity, it doesn't matter. After saying that, Yi Tianzong waved his hand to set up a boundary, and then, as if there was no one else around, he whispered to Ling Xinyue and Shenyu. On the opposite side, Myriad Art Ancestor, Star Palace Ancestor, and Prophet Ancestor decisively sent people to their own worlds to gather the third and fourth sky of Myth Realm experts. Chapter 268. As a world that had developed to its peak and was about to be destroyed, Yuan Ling World had many Myth Realm experts. Their number definitely exceeded the current Myth Realm experts in Profound Spirit World by at least a quarter. In addition to 20 Myth Realm experts and 150 Myth Realm experts, Yuan Ling World had more than 2,000 Myth Realm experts at Myth Realm 4th Sky and more than 7,000 Myth Realm experts at Myth Realm 3rd Sky. The number of Myth Realm experts at Myth Realm 1st Sky and 2nd Sky reached more than 100,000. In less than half an hour, the 3,000 Myth Realm experts at Myth Realm 3rd Sky and 4th Sky of Yuan Ling World came to Profound Spirit World through the Space Channel. Then, under the orders of Ancestor Myriad Art, Ancestor Star Palace, and Ancestor Prophet, they went directly to the other side of the battlefield where the demon gods were fighting. They quickly cut off all the escape routes of the demon god. Seeing that the Myth Realm experts of Yuan Ling World had completed the blockade, Yi Tianzong transmitted a message to the Myth Realm experts in Central Plains and Southern Wasteland to stop and retreat, leaving the following battle to Yuan Ling World. Yi Tianzong took the others back to the border between Central Plains and Northern Border. After returning to the station, Yi Tianzong told all the forces in Central Plains and Southern Wasteland about the agreement reached with Yuan Ling World experts. Basically, no one objected to the content of the agreement. As Yi Tianzong said, for the sake of the safety of this world, the people of Yuan Ling World would not do crazy things in desperation. In the end, people of Yuan Ling World would definitely integrate into it. Instead of both sides suffering losses and creating a life and death feud, it was better to use the power of Yuan Ling World to fight the demon race. While weakening the strength of the demon race, it also gave people of Yuan Ling World a chance to survive. In the end, they could determine the winner and the loser. This could not only reduce the casualties, but also increase the strength of this world. It was killing two birds with one stone. The final war was unavoidable. Although they had already reached an agreement with the people of the outer space, the major forces of the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland did not relax. They were still seizing the time to increase their strength in order to increase their chances of winning the war 3 years later. Time flew by in Central Plains and Southern Wasteland's dormant development and the war between Yuan Ling World and the demon race. 3 years passed quickly. The elite forces from the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland had been fully prepared for war in the 200 giant cities located at the border between the Central Plains and the Northern Wasteland. On the other side, in the past 3 years, in order to have more time to prepare for the war with Central Plains and South Wilderness, the human powerhouses from Yuan Ling World had spared no efforts to kill the demons in North Border at the beginning. There were more than 60,000 people in Myth Realm, and there were also countless people below Myth Realm. At the same time, the most powerful Ancestor Myriad Art, Ancestor Xingchen, and Ancestor Tianji also participated in the battle against the demon race. Under such a powerful lineup, the devil race of the northern frontier suffered heavy losses in less than 2 years. Their strength was greatly reduced, and they were completely driven out of the northern frontier and returned to their underground nest. So far, among the Central Plains, the Southern Wasteland, the northern frontier, and the western regions, only the western regions still showed signs of large-scale demon activity. And after the repeated battles with the devil race, Yuan Ling World's power had also been greatly reduced. In order to avoid more consumption, which would lead to the weakening of their strength, after driving away the devil race of the northern frontier, the human race of Yuanling world did not take any action against the natives of the northern frontier for the time being. They had been seizing the time to prepare for war. 3 years had passed, and the time for the decisive battle between the two worlds had arrived. On this day, Yi Tianzong appeared in the Alliance Hall. He looked at the powerhouses of the major forces and said, 3 years have passed, and the time for the decisive battle between us and the outer world has arrived. This battle is related to who will be the dominant position in our world in the future, and it is related to the fate of the two worlds. We can't afford to lose this battle. We don't have to be merciful to those creatures from the outer world, because if our strength is far inferior to theirs, we might be fleeing from their pursuit right now. They definitely won't show any mercy to us. Now the war has begun. Let's go. After Yi Tianzong finished speaking, he gave off a powerful aura that shook the heavens and the earth, and flew thousands of miles high into the sky. Ling Xinyue and Shen Yu followed closely behind. Then came the myth realm powerhouses of the Hao Ranjin sect, Lingyun Hall, Kunlun sect, and the 10 Holy Lands. Finally, the myth realm army of the major forces of the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland. Each of them gave off their own powerful aura and flew toward the depths of the northern frontier without any disguise. Behind the myth realm army were the war weapons built by the major forces of the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland. Led by the 20 war fortresses of the Hao Ranjin sect and 200 sky patrol battleships, they flew thousands of miles high in the sky in a mighty manner, blotting out the sky and the sun. Finally, the army formation formed by the powerhouses of the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland above the Marquis Wu realm flew in the sky one after another. The Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland had already begun their operations, and the humans from Yuanling world had also begun the prelude to the war. From afar, countless human armies formed a neat formation, and their auras were connected as one, as if they were endless. They covered the vast world within a radius of millions of miles, and all kinds of war weapons with great lethality were taken out. At the forefront of the army that filled the sky were all the myth realm powerhouses of Yuanling world. This was a decisive battle that concerned the future fate of the living beings of the two worlds, and there was no mercy. In order to fight for a higher status in the spirit world, more territory, and more fate, Yuanling world could be said to have sent out all the elite. All the people of Marquis Wu realm and above were in the battle. In the distance, Yi Tianzong led all the myth realm powerhouses of the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland to arrive first. After meeting all the myth realm powerhouses of Yuanling world led by Ancestor Myriad Spell, Ancestor Star Palace, and Ancestor Prophet, the two sides' auras were at loggerheads with each other, and the chi of heaven and earth stirred up waves of energy storms. After a moment of confrontation, the two sides did not say anything, and turned into beams of light that went straight to the 9 heavens. After all the myth realm powerhouses of the spirit world and Yuanling world had flown up to the 9 heavens, all the war weapons of the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland that followed behind launched a devastating attack on the camp of Yuanling world without mercy. Especially the 20 war fortresses from the Hao Ranjin sect, under the divine light of destruction driven by vast energy, they broke through the defense barrier formed by the army of Yuanling world after just a moment of stalemate. Then, with their super-powerful defensive and offensive abilities, the war fortresses and sky patrol battleships directly broke into the endless army of Yuanling world, withstanding the countless attacks of the army of Yuanling world, and opened up a huge gap in the carefully built defense formation of Yuanling world. And the war weapons of the other major forces of the spirit world also seized the opportunity to quickly pass through the gap, and attacked everywhere to expand the battle results and open up more gaps in the defense. Countless armies from the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland swarmed in through the gaps opened up by all the war weapons, and launched a fierce battle against the people of Yuanling world. This was a battle that concerned the fate of the living beings of the two worlds. All the humans and demons of the Central Plains and the Southern Wasteland completely regarded the humans of Yuan-Ling world as the Devil Clan, and attacked mercilessly. Countless exploding flame pearls were thrown at the people of Yuan-Ling world, killing and injuring countless people, but no one had the mood or time to take a look. In the entire battlefield there was only fighting, and it was either you die or I live. The war fortresses and sky patrol battleships of the Hao Ranzhen sect were invincible on the vast battlefield. Activating the Royal Spirit Shield and withstanding the countless powerful attacks from the army of Yuan-Ling world, the God Destroyer Mace, the Sky Cannon, the Dark Light Tower, the Dragon Snaring Lasso, the God Lock Mirror, and the Spirit Swallowing Disc were all activated. With the origin crystals that Yi Tianzong took out to power them, and with the upgraded and more powerful Spirit Swallowing Disc to replenish their energy, the war fortresses and sky patrol battleships could be said to be at full power, bursting out powerful attacks that could kill gods and demons at any moment, making it impossible for the people of Yuan-Ling world to avoid, and suffering heavy casualties.